On any journey. The new Isuzu MU-X, now including the new Onyx XT. It's an SUV with 4x4 capabilities, ready for anything. Experience the new Isuzu MU-X at your nearest dealership today.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses, pay yours, make a difference.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, Pretoria, Polokwane, Potchefstroom and everything else in between, all of that. Port Shepstone too, of course, and some of the names have changed. Wherever you may be in the country, wonderful to connect with you for the 3 hours of the National Pulse. My name's Ashraf Garda. There's no question we will touch on the fact that the president finally will meet Trump next week. What sort of a showdown is that going to be? We'll talk about that pretty shortly. We'll also chat to Dr. Naledi Pandor about some thoughts around the importance of, CSI projects and other projects in the nation-building processes that the country faces, or a country faces in general. We'll touch on that too. And, of course, you heard it on the news regarding the Minister of Health, Aaron Motsoaledi, and the impact of those aid withdrawals to South Africa and many other countries, and the effect that that has on our country too. So we'll talk about that too, and many, many more. But first things first, let's talk about an issue that I think potentially is going to certainly take up a lot of our conversation today and in the days ahead, in terms of where is the ANC and the future of the African National Congress, with particular reference to the Premier of the Gauteng province, Panyaza Lesufi, because the ANC's Gauteng provincial task team, led by the Premier, Lesufi, briefed the media in Saxon World on outcomes in tackling major challenges in the province, with a focus on improving service delivery in the province. Now, that would be part of his job, understandably so. However, he then went on, because he was asked a question about him running for office in 2027, and it's what he said or what he didn't say that is the subject of our conversation now.
I was asked by a journalist whether I'm available in 2027. I said, I'm viewing my options. I've been in politics since I was 13 years, so if you speak about 2027, it might be far-fetched. So let's wait, because it's not about contestation. There might be other opportunities that are opened for us to work. If you're an activist, there are many things that you can do. So to view that as living politics, I think is far-fetched. I doubt. I'm an activist in and out. And I'll never leave the African National Congress. I think that's another important aspect. But if there are other areas where I'm assigned, either by the party or government, we'll attend to that. But living politics is not it's not something that I can. But there are many opportunities that one is looking at as well in terms of future relations.
So that's the voice of the Premier of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi. So not leaving politics, but certainly not very clear whether he's going to stick around in a leadership position 2027 onwards. And what do you make of all of that, right? So you have your opinions, I know, but to help us get further informed, let's chat to Professor Andre Duvenage, who is the political analyst from the University of the Northwest region. Prof. Duvenage, good to connect with you once again.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Nice talking to you, sir.
Thank you. So, first of all, he's saying different things, Panyaza Lesufi, that is. What do you make? Is there anything that sticks out that is particularly important here?
Well, I think a number of things. To start with, I have no doubt that Panjasa Lesufi has huge political aspirations, and I think he will try his utmost to be part of the top 6 or maybe then 7 or whatever the case may be of the ANC after the National Conference of 2027. It will be interesting to see if he is prepared to compete with the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, because they are coming from more or less the same camp. And secondly, I am seeing this as part of an attempt of the anti-Ramaphosa group to mobilize themselves in preparation for the 2027 conference. To talk about Mr. Panjasa Lesufi himself, I am afraid he doesn't have a sound track record when it comes to the governance and management of the province. We know also that the ANC is under administration. There are huge allegations of corruption. The infrastructure is falling apart. And in my view, we will have serious concerns about the future if that type of leadership is going to take over. Because what we need at this point is consensus. We need to build and rebuild a nation. We need to rebuild a state. We need to get investments in order to get the economy going. And I am afraid I am not reading a lot of that in the political populism I am reading within the ANC and of what Mr. Lesufi, according to my view, is part of.
Now, interesting. You say that you have no doubt that he has got huge political aspirations. In fact, the Mail and Guardian is quoting in terms of their story, saying that he has signaled his exit from politics and he rules out an ANC top 7 bid for that 2027 conference. So they're ruling him out, according to the Mail and Guardian.
Well, I am not sure about that one. To be honest with you, ask yourself the simple question: what are the alternatives for Mr. Panjasa Lesufi outside that of politics? And I cannot see a huge position of influence, of status. But what I think is we are seeing a lot of positioning and repositioning and playing hard to get as a result of the start towards the build-up to the national conference of the ANC 2027. And it's interesting, we are hearing a number of names, Patrice Motsepe amongst them. I have heard the name of Zenzo Mchunu. We know that Fikile Mbalula has certain aspirations. Paul Mashatile has aspirations. So as we say in the hunting world, the jackals are showing their eyes.
The jackals are showing their eyes. Are you suggesting, therefore, in terms of the jackals showing their eyes, as you've suggested, that in fact this is a verbal retreat from Panjasa Lesufi, but in fact he's consolidating his position in a different way, as you said, playing hard to get, wanting to actually test just how much of real support he's got for a senior leadership position of the ANC national?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And we know that any future leader in the ANC will need the support of the Gauteng province. And although they lost support in the national elections, the ANC elections is another ball game, and his support will be critical in terms of either trying to become president or being a huge influence in this regard. And I cannot picture him outside that frame of reference. Therefore, I believe that he is going to fight for this. Everyone has its own strategy and tactics when it comes to politics. It's interesting the maneuvers made by the Ramaphosa camp as well. So I think the politics is starting to heat up within the ANC, and we are going to see a lot more of this in the near future, because the end of 2027 is not so far in political terms.
Okay, early on you said that, he doesn't have a good track record of governance. Some may argue with you about that anyway, right? But having said that, if that were the case, how much of that would you attribute? That means in terms of his position now, is it strengthened? Is it weakened? Keeping in mind the unique strategic position that Gauteng has taken regarding the GNU compared to other provinces.
There are two contexts we need to read. The one context is the ANC, and the other one is the context of the state. And these two contexts are intertwined in some ways. What the state is about, I think his position is definitely weakening with regard to the coalition within the province, his alignment with the EFF, his conflict with Cyril Ramaphosa, his conflict with the Secretary General of the ANC in a way. In the ANC, it will be dependent on the power struggle between what I like to refer to as the populists on the one side and the moderates on the other side. And there's at the moment I can identify at least 4 or 5 groupings within the framework of the ANC. But if the populists are going to win, and I think the Paul Mashatile factor is a critical one in this regard, then there's going to be a future for Panyaza Lesufi. But I believe at the end of the day, and this is it's a far shot, it's a general prediction, I think at the later stage, he is going to align with Paul Mashatile in the hopes of getting the one or the other senior position within the framework of the ANC.
Okay, just the last thing. In terms of what he said now, being the premier, does that cause ripples? Because, I mean, we have to take his words on the basis of what he said. And what he said is, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be around in 2027. Who knows? I'll be in politics, but I'm not too sure about standing for senior positions. Does that not have any effect on how he's perceived and the markets within Gauteng?
Well, politics is very uncertain. And I am lecturing many of these students that were in high positions as well. Some of them were premiers as well. And one constant message I am getting is the fact that they are unsure about the future. No one knows what holds the future. And at the moment, if we look at some of the recent surveys about the ANC, support base dropped to 32%, Social Research Foundation, Institute for Race Relations down to 29%. We have seen a momentum coming from the side of the MK party. In a way, we are seeing a declining of the EFF. We are living in times of fundamental change, which is very much unpredictable. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty among politicians about their future.
Okay, carry on. You were going to say?
Okay. And as a result of that, I think he is playing for options. He's not going to say, I'm going to stand, but maybe there are options within a certain context. My take on it is straightforward. He's part of a bigger positioning, and I'm reading him within the context of the Mashatile framework, and I see him as one of the core lieutenants in the future in terms of the campaign of Paul Mashatile.
Okay, from lieutenants, we'll talk about leaders and Cyril Ramaphosa in a moment. Appreciate your time. Professor Andre Duvenage, political analyst from the University of the Northwest, talking about all things Panyaza Lesufi. Where's he really going to go? Gauteng's premier, in politics, out of politics, 2027? That's not long, 2 years from now. Welcome to the National Pulse.
We're extending the sunshine on Mzansi's favorite adventure SUV with Ford Blue Sky offers. For just $849,999, a new Everest XLT could be yours. Glide through the burbs or power through nature's toughest with a 3.5-ton brake towing capacity. You'll even get 4x4 driver training through Ford Family Promise for free. Head to a Ford dealer and get your new Everest XLT for just $849,999. T&Cs apply.
Reigning champions Bafana Style are in a jubilant mood closer to the end of the season. They are enjoying every moment on the summit, but Magesi FC have an agenda to cause an upset. This is the Betway Premiership. Witness Mzansi's beautiful game, Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus Magesi FC on Sunday 18 May, streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC 1 at 4:30 p.m. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This May, SAFM celebrates Africa Month with you as we honor the legacy of the Organization of African Unity. We bring you rich conversations and the vibrant sounds of Africa. Music that moves the soul. This is SAFM.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, you won't hear it in the news headlines too often, but it's definitely worth talking about. Laurette, who's a 61-year-old woman, is a real Outsurance client who switched and now saves a newsworthy 725 Rand a month on her 2024 BMW X1. So that's 725 Rands more money in her pocket every month. Question, why pay more when you could pay less? Get a quote from Outsurance today and see how much they could save you on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So it's been talked about the whole of last week, and then suddenly we got the confirmation late yesterday that actually the South Africa's President Ramaphosa will be in the USA next week and bound to meet, set to meet Donald Trump. I think it's on the Wednesday. Let's set the scene in terms of what the expectations are with the SABC's international reporter, an editor in this case here, Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, appreciate your time. Hi.
Thank you, Ashraf.
Please tell me you're going to be following the trip. You'll be there as well.
No, I won't be there. We have Nick Harper in Washington, our correspondent, and we also have Sharon Bryce Peace, who will travel from New York to Washington on Monday. So we are fairly well covered.
You are covered, right? Okay.
We will be able to cover the story from all angles.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the angle. So this meetup is finally happening, right? What do you think is going to, I mean, I think we should start at the very end. I mean, what would be the likely outcome of this meetup?
We can't predict what will be the outcome. The problem is that it is very difficult to predict President Donald Trump. And therefore, you can't predict. The issue here, there is no way he is going to accept to be lectured in terms of what's happening in South Africa. That is linked to issues of disinformation around marginalization of the white Afrikaner community. Because you know that when he was leaving to Middle East or the Gulf region, he repeated those allegations, even though he had spoken to President Ramaphosa during that telephone conversation at the time where Zelensky was in South Africa, because they did touch on this issue. And therefore, I can't see him changing his mind. And the tone you get from the White House spokesperson, from the secretaries of state and the State Department, you can see that they are not moving. You had the deputy state secretary, when he was welcoming these Afrikaners, and also the representative of Homeland Security. And therefore, I can't see U.S. moving, the current administration moving on that score. And therefore now, you have to focus on the bilateral relations, trade, and also global issues, and rather focus on common issues. For example, on the global issue, South Africa has been saying this from day one, that Russia and Ukraine must engage and the war must stop. That is his view. South Africa has been saying Palestinians have a right to self-determination. Palestine and Israel must talk, and Israelis and Palestinians must live side by side. That's what he is saying now, yesterday in the Gulf region. Now, those are the issues you agree on. Now, turning to the issue of trade, accept AGOA, it's gone. So what's the alternative? How do you negotiate with America so that America is happy, South Africa is happy, and that's his strength and that's his interest. He is transactional.
Now, many people are looking at the example.
PEPFAR. PEPFAR. Forget PEPFAR. It's gone. Don't even go there.
So there's a lot of things that are gone. I mean, some have suggested, the Zelensky example to say, is Ramaphosa being set up to be humiliated, which is very much the modus operandi or the art of the deal of a Donald Trump. He'll first come there, put you under huge pressure, humiliate you, and then a couple of weeks later do some deal with you. Is he being set up to do just that?
It will depend on President Ramaphosa's posture. But if you recall, he led the negotiations at CODESA, where the Afrikaners and the right wing was pushing for a particular outcome, which led to even a standoff, that storming of the World Trade Center. And his emotional intelligence and diplomacy skills will have to come out. Don't degenerate. Whatever he does, don't degenerate, but hold the line on policy issues that are non-negotiable and with a calm body language. That's how you can deal with Trump. There's no way you can avoid his body language and his dramatic way of doing things and his dramatic way of responding. As I said, on the issue of Afrikaners, they are not going to agree.
So what sort of leverage does President Ramaphosa have?
He can leverage on the fact that when you look at the tariffs, there was a waiver on scarce minerals. That's the leverage you have to say we have scarce minerals that you want for your manufacturing, particularly on technology. Two, you have many American companies in South Africa. Do you want these American companies to close shops and send them to be bankrupt? Lastly, South Africa is a gateway to Africa. You can't isolate South Africa from a broader 2 billion population that you have currently in terms of doing business on the continent. And lastly, with the G20, whether he's coming, whether he's not coming, the G20 will go ahead. It will happen. Decisions will be taken with or without America. Then you hand over, it's up to America, how America is going to handle the G20 next year. And he will then realize that it's not easy, because even other countries are likely to do exactly what he's doing to South Africa in terms of the preparations to the G20. And therefore, just ignore where you can't find each other, focus on issues where you can find each other. I know he had requested that the president must bring the two top golfers in South Africa, Annie Els and Gary Player. Maybe they will be there. Who knows? The president, if the Afrikaners have been invited, because he can do that, the president shouldn't be intimidated.
Okay,
so
and
that's all.
And then last thing, as we get onto news time, in a quick line, what for you would be a winning trip for President Ramaphosa? How would you measure it?
If he is able to contain himself and he doesn't degenerate, if he's able to put his point or his views across, and if he is able to, on the give and take, to agree with Trump on some of those issues. Lastly, to agree on the global issues, particularly the war in Ukraine and the Middle East question.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. It's going to be a busy few days for all of you and all of us, I'm sure, and then next week as well. Sophie Mokoena, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse. Let's get to the news headlines. Here's Zondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Washington Post reports that the White House National Security Council has ordered all agencies and departments to suspend work with the G20 conference that South Africa is hosting later this year. Health Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi says government has no plan currently to assist the 8,000 workers who lost their jobs following the withdrawal of funding by the United States government. And Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has described the Russian delegation sent to Turkey as stand-in props after President Vladimir Putin decided not to engage in direct talks with him there. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Four Ways has a stationary vehicle before Winnie Mandela Drive. In Edenvale, the R24 westbound queuing towards the N12 highway merge, and the N3 southbound slow moving towards Giluli's interchange. In KZN, the N3 westbound in Pietermaritzburg has a crash before Hilton exit. The M25 commercial highway eastbound has roadworks with traffic restrictions towards the N2 highway, and the N3 westbound in Pietermaritzburg a stationary truck before Market Road exit. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend, the M5 northbound slow moving towards the N1 Koeberg interchange, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
All right, it's time for sport. To me, what are we going to be covering now?
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf. I'm very excited because you know how we're always celebrating champions on the show. And today, unfortunately, you cannot mention champions in a sentence without saying Mamelodi Sundowns. So this afternoon we're celebrating champions on the show, and it has to be the Brazilians. A big congratulations to the Yellow Nations for their 8th consecutive league title. And what better way to celebrate Masandawana than to talk to the most decorated player in the league's history, now with 12 PSL titles.
It's crazy.
All in all, this is one player.
What else does he do in his life? But anyway.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely ask him that. But also, he's a player who's been with the Tshwane side since 2011. So he's been there winning year after year, coaches coming in and out, and he's still standing. And we're talking about Dennis Onyango, who's on the line. He's actually celebrating his birthday today, turning 40th. Dennis, a happy birthday to you and a big congratulations. What a way to celebrate your 40th.
Good afternoon to you and the listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'd love to understand, how does it feel, or explain to us, how does it feel every single time you guys win the league, and is it different?
Well, of course, winning the league is different. Every year is different because it comes with its own challenges. But this year was a little bit difficult for us because we had a few coaching changes within the club and playing a lot of games in terms of the league and cup games and Champions League. But we stayed focused on the goal, and the goal was to win the league. Of course, we would have loved to grab one or two more trophies in terms of the cup. But it was not meant to be, and but we still have one more. We still have the Champions League looking at us because we have the final coming in a few days. But as I said, it's always nice and beautiful to win a trophy, especially the league, because it gives you the opportunity to play in the Champions League, which is one of the top tournaments on the African continent. But it was a very difficult season. To be honest, it was very difficult. As I said, changing coaches. Coach Rulani left, and Coach Manova took over. He left, and then we got Coach Cardoso. But the continuity was there from the players, and of course the management was very much focused on keeping the players on their toes to know that regardless of what's happening around the club, we need to continue with our journey. And for me, that's what makes this championship more interesting and very nice for me.
I think for me, I'm very interested in understanding what Sundowns is doing right, because you've been with the side since 2011 and they started winning consecutively from around 2017. What would you say has changed since 2011, and obviously even seeing, or regardless of which coach was in charge?
Personally, I think the mentality of the players, whoever comes at the club, is being told what is needed from him, because the quality is there. But do you have the right mentality to stay at the club, fight for the club, and of course face all the challenges? Because the players, of course, face a lot of challenges. Some don't get so much game time as they wish to get, and some play as much as they can. But that bond that we create at the club, from the senior management to the coaching staff and the kitchen, and of course the groundsmen, the kit department, and the players, keeps us going, because it's not easy to manage quality players, and some of them are not having game time. But if they know their target and the mandate, I think that's what the club installed in the players, and the brotherhood, because we all know that we can't all be on the pitch at the same time, and there's no team that changes players all the time in terms of playing the 11 this week, and then the next 3-4 days you play the other 11. So everyone knew that whenever I'm given the opportunity, I must do my job. Of course, it's not easy, because a lot of players want to play week in, week out. But
of course,
when you are given the opportunity, are you ready to grab it and take the team to the next level? I think that has been key for us. And of course, the senior players trying to manage the young ones and letting them know that regardless of the situation, you still have to do the job because you're getting paid. So the management has done enough, and the senior players have done their part in terms of keeping the team together, regardless of the challenges that we had throughout the season.
I'm sure you're one of those, when you include yourself when you say the senior players have somehow helped those young ones as they're coming in. And am I right to say that there's a system that has been put in place that regardless of the coach that comes in, that has helped Sundowns to do well year in, year out?
Yes, sure, because when a player comes into the club, the mandate is very clear that you must give 100% to the club all the time, regardless of the situation. But the players knew also that they have to fight for the badge, because the badge comes first, and your name comes second. That's why the badge is at the front. So coaches will always come and go, but the team will always stay there, and the players sometimes stay and some go. But the mandate has to be clear. And that I would give credit to the management, because they've done that very well to make sure that the players know their role that they have to play to maintain the standards of the club. Of course, winning the league 8 times in a row, it's not easy, because everyone starts from zero. And the momentum that we gain when we are playing the league, and of course, the targets that we set before we start are very key, because if you can remember, we also had to travel to Austria to prepare the team for the season, which has a lot of tournaments, and you can't finish the season with nothing if you have prepared in that way. So for me, I think if you look at all the teams that have won trophies, of course, this season, besides Magezi, they all went away. Chiefs went away, Pirates went away, we went away, but it's the targets the club sets, and for me, I think it was very clear from the club that we have to look forward to the Champions League, and of course the league and the other trophies that were available.
Dennis, thank you very much for joining us on the show. It's always great catching up with you. But I must say from my side, a big congratulations to Mamelodi Sundowns.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit cfi.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45, proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
South Africans don't like to talk about Say what? Mara FYI, our financial confidence is, and our financial anxiety, it's an F show.
Or is it? See, just talking about our finances can build confidence and make us better at managing them.
This is exciting. Welcome to your Fintervention, Mzansi.
It's our way to get you talking, laughing, and learning about.
Start now at livewithconfidence.co.za. Sanlam. Live with confidence. Sanlam Life is a licensed life insurer, financial services, and registered credit provider.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matriek mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bakkie to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So much happening in a very, very changing world, isn't it? You may have seen, besides the fact that South Africa's president will be going to the USA next week. The American president has been in the Middle East over the last couple of days, and I think in Abu Dhabi today as well. And there are big changes and big talks about things happening domestically as well. Now, in the context of all of that, I think the next conversation we're going to have is really important because my guest is Dr. Naledi Pandor, and she spoke yesterday at the Trialogue Business in Society conference. We touched on that the other day too, right? And one of the things we want to talk about there is just this role of business as a development partner in addressing some of the biggest socio-economic challenges that we face as a country. So with me is the former Minister of International Relations, Dr. Naledi Pandor, now chairperson of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Appreciate your time, Dr. Pandor, and good to see you or chat to you like 2 weeks apart.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and listeners. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. I think we last met at that Omar Soleimani event, but this is a different time and a different venue and different aspirations. However, I want to get your thoughts on just that. The overall theme of this conference that you attended is, driving impact and inspiring change. So how do you pick up on that, driving impact, inspiring change, as opposed to simply saying, let's just talk about things and do nothing?
Well, I think that what I observed with the conference was a very honest attempt to identify metrics that would assist particularly corporate providers of resources with assessing whether a difference is being achieved as they invest in social responsibility. So really driving impact is firstly identifying a clear set of objectives and then developing criteria for evaluating whether these are being met. So it's just moving away from the notion that we all wish to do good and we should provide funding to institutions. The key objective seems to be we want that good to translate into real change.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the issue of CSI, because, even in your current position heading up the Nelson Mandela Foundation, you would, I think, to a large degree rely on youth support, from South Africa and around the globe, right? But yes, often when we talk about CSI, it comes across as just that, something slightly different to sponsorship, but like almost a charitable contribution. And are you saying it has to be much more than that? So if the answer to that is yes, much more, then how does one make it much more without bleeding the funders?
Indeed, it should be much more. I have proposed, and you should have attended my session yesterday.
I wish I did, yeah.
Because essentially the issue I attempted to raise was to link
South Africa's development priorities to the various initiatives led largely by the not-for-profit organizations in our country. And I was proposing that what we need to do is a far better coordination of efforts, so stronger partnerships, but with a very clear intention of addressing our triple problems, which are poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And I suggested that if we target these, then we will see a real difference in our country. So, for example, if we fund entrepreneurs, it shouldn't just be to train you on how to start a business. We should provide the level of skill and capacity support that allows you to run a sustainable business. It's not just a matter of training. Often we have a bit of a hit and miss approach, and I was suggesting really substantively focusing on ensuring that a real long-term difference is made, that jobs are created, micro industries become small businesses.
So in terms of your suggestion, I mean, how much weight and muscle, can it carry? That means, how do you move that from a proposal at the trialogue yesterday to something that could actually be implementable? What would it take?
Well, I think it's for the corporate sector. I was suggesting to them that it is important to have, charity, just as it's necessary to have humanitarian aid. But I also think that we need to begin to think more strategically about the interventions that we classify as corporate social responsibility. And it is that dynamic link between strategy and support that I think is missing. So it's really thinking through and looking at how you tie in these triple challenges I've referred to, and ensure that you don't, through corporate social responsibility, build a large cohort of individuals trained in a range of skills, but then have skilled, unemployed young people. You've got to look much more at, what form of institution might we establish that could absorb these young people. Would a partnership with government help take up digitally skilled young people, for example? So it's really looking at elaborating stronger stakeholder collaboration and clearer strategic thinking about goals. So moving beyond resourcing.
Because it's interesting, you say this at a time where for many people, the one call will be that business must play a greater role in the development of a state. And the flip side of that is that many others believe that business must just mind their own business and, do what they need to do and employ people and keep quiet and let government run everything else. And how do you get that balance right?
I was suggesting to the conference that leaving everything to government is hazardous terrain. And the globe is pointing us very clearly in that direction. There are many areas in which we need to see greater action by a range of significant sectors. So, for example, we have the Africa Free Trade Area Agreement, which links very clearly to the development of logistics, infrastructure capacity for manufacturing, transport, etc. You cannot do that as a government alone. You have to have the private sector closely associated with that. Or achieving democracy, sustainable public institutions, and the full enjoyment of human rights and freedoms. Without NGOs playing a role, assisting and supporting government in achieving those objectives, linked to private sector resources, you're not going to achieve those goals.
Okay,
so
I want to maybe look at some examples.
Stronger partnerships.
I may want to just look at an example or two of that, and we'll do that right after this.
Makoti Down Products is a proudly South African family business, started more than 30 years ago with 12 geese and a piece of material. Makoti manufactures duvets, pillows, sleeping bags, and high-quality Egyptian cotton linen. Our down products are suitable for people with dust mite allergies and come with a lifelong guarantee. And we offer a nationwide cleaning service for all your feather and down products. Visit us at makoti.co.za or call us on 041 992 395. For quality down, Makoti Down.
Do you want to study towards a tertiary qualification but need a flexible study schedule? Stadio Higher Education's distance learning qualifications offer just that. Our distance learning support is designed for your success. 2025 applications to Stadio's range of high-quality, affordable qualifications are now open. Distance learning qualifications are available in law, administration and management, commerce, teacher education, policing, law enforcement, humanities, and information technology. Visit stadio.ac.za and register today. Stadio, a new vision in higher education.
TSG believe if they double their efforts, they will close the curtain with huge smiles. But the Reds are on standby to cheers to an incredible season. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Witness TSG Hoffenheim against Bayern München on Saturday, 17 May at 3 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC 3, and on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Join us this Tuesday evening at 7:30 for the latest series of SAFTA award-winning reality show, The Tastemaster SA.
Today's theme is all about bread. I love making bread. I am shaking my boots. What a beach. We got this, we got this. Oh, that didn't sound convincing. I'm feeling a little stressed. I'm not going to mess this one up.
That's The Tastemaster SA. Tuesdays at 7:30, repeats Sundays at 4. Only on SABC 2.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's conclude our conversation with Dr. Naledi Pandor, now currently as the chairperson of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, but speaking as she was yesterday on the back of a fascinating conference on societal change that I think is really, really important. We were chatting just before the break about that role of CSI and not leaving everything to government. Now the flip side of that, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, that many have said if you look at some of the many NGOs and other foundations we've had in the country in the last 10, 15 years, that it's almost like it's flipped around. The government's dependence on these NGOs and civil society has been so great that if you remove that dependence, we'd have even far bigger problems with those societal challenges that you referred to than we have now.
Well, I did raise aspects of that matter with reference to the withdrawal of U.S. funding for the health sector, particularly HIV programs. As you know, this could have a dire impact and has certainly had an impact on NPOs. I think there is a vital role that the private sector should play in closing the gap that has been created by the United States, because we don't want to go back to a situation in which we see people dying of HIV and of AIDS in our country. We had made very important strides, and in my view, the private sector could step in and play a role. I express concern about, science and research centers that have done incredible work on HIV suddenly facing closure. And I called on the corporates present at the conference that they need to really give attention to the effects and the fallout related to withdrawal of international aid, not just from the United States, but reductions from European countries as well.
Absolutely, and I think we're going to play some sound from the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, just now regarding just that and an inability to make up those losses that we experience as a country right now. Perhaps maybe just a final thought then, because it's very topical, going into next week's visit of President Ramaphosa to the USA. I mean, a lot has been said and done in the last few months. You're not in government anymore, but you're part of civil society. What for you then would you think, in the light of what you've just said, would be a winning visit of the president to the White House?
Well, I think it would be great if President Ramaphosa could persuade President Trump to visit South Africa for a few days and get to know our country better. Because unfortunately, our country has been misrepresented to him, and I think he has come to believe that, we're all bloodthirsty people in this country killing, particularly black people killing white Afrikaners, South Africans, which I think is such a misrepresentation that it needs to be cleared up. And I think while the meeting is certainly welcome, I think a meeting in Washington is insufficient to really introduce the real South Africa to President Trump.
Well, let's see if he takes up that invitation sometime soon. Dr. Naledi Pandor, appreciate your time. Chairperson of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, thank you for that. Speaking on the back of yesterday's conference, it was a 3-day conference. In fact, it was the Trialogue Business in Society conference, and big challenges in terms of the role of business and government, but certainly business and CSI projects in a developmental nation like we have in South Africa. This is the National Pulse.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, certainly. Let's get your comments on any of the things we've spoken about so far. Lots to consider. What about Panyaza Lesufi?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Mtu in Durban. Ashraf, I beg to differ with your guest at that site regarding Indabaga Panyaza Lesufi. I still believe that Panyaza Lesufi has more influence there, more especially after he distanced himself with the GNU. Remember that there are a lot of ANC supporters or ANC members who are against this thing or the setup of GNU. And most people, they so wish that ANC formed the GNU with MK Party, EFF, and other parties which they call themselves Progressive Party. So him coming up with that idea, I think more and more people believed in his leadership. So I really believe that he has more influence than all other people that he's talking about.
Okay, got that. Try and keep your sound bites up to 30 seconds. The voice notes, it really does help us play as many as we possibly can. Here's one on Trump.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I don't understand the reason why Ramaphosa had to meet Donald Trump next week, because Donald Trump has already bullied our country, is already done the damage. There's no need to do damage control with Donald Trump. Just cut ties with America for the next 3 years, because Donald Trump will bully Ramaphosa again. Well,
I don't know if I agree with you. I mean, I was thinking about yesterday. In fact, I attended a talk given by Abdullah Barachia, who lectures at Gibbs, right? And he made the point that, and I stand to be corrected with the numbers, but he said something like the GDP of Africa contribution to the world is 3%, and the USA is about 35%. That number alone tells you cannot ignore the Americans, no matter what you feel about them. So even if you feel you're being bullied, right, it's like a bank foreclosing on you. If the bank manager forecloses and still wants to meet you, do you ignore it, or do you say, let me see if I can salvage the deal? Just think about that. It's 4 o'clock. Here's the news with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. U.S. agencies reportedly suspend work for the G20 conference, and Motsoaledi speaks on thousands unemployed due to PEPFAR withdrawal. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. The Washington Post reports that the White House National Security Council has ordered all agencies and departments to suspend work with the G20 conference that South Africa is hosting later this year. The publication cites two sources familiar with the matter and who spoke on condition of anonymity. This development emerging as the South African presidency confirmed overnight that President Cyril Ramaphosa would travel to Washington next week to meet with President Donald Trump at the White House. Sherwin Bryce reports.
The move would be just the latest decision to undermine South Africa's hosting of the G20 after the U.S. Secretary of State and Treasury Secretary boycotted ministerial meetings earlier this year, following President Trump's executive order on so-called egregious actions in the Republic. Trump earlier this week again leveled the accusation of white genocide against the government, just as Afrikaner refugees arrived in the USA, and suggested he would not attend the G20 summit unless the situation was taken care of. The South African presidency was hoping next week's White House meeting would serve as a reset in the strategic relationship. Sherwin Bryce, SABC News, New York.
Health Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi says government has no plan currently to assist the 8,000 workers who lost their jobs following the withdrawal of funding by the United States government. The U.S. President Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, had been supporting around 15,000 workers in South Africa's HIV/AIDS program. However, 8,000 of them are without jobs and a further 7,000 employed through the Center for Disease Control are expected to lose theirs by September. Speaking at a media briefing in Pretoria, Motsoaledi says while efforts to secure alternative funding are ongoing, no solid support has been secured for the affected workers.
At the present moment, all we can do is to present our plans to funders. And I've given you a long list of funders we have met. There's not a single one who said, no, we won't help. But up to today, there's not a single one who came to the party. Either private funders or governments around the world. There's not a single one. At the moment, the only one who came to the party, Global Fund, came to the party with 1 billion rand, only for ARVs and nothing else. So I'm not going to stand here in front of you and claim that we have got any plan for the 8,000 people.
A 35-year-old man has been handed a life imprisonment sentence for the 2009 rape of a 12-year-old girl by the Mankweng Magistrate Court in Limpopo. Police spokesperson Malisela Lidwaba says the girl was sent to Matome Siabi's home in Mentz outside Polokwane in 2009 when he raped her. Lidwaba says Siabi was arrested in 2009, but he has been out on bail since 2012.
A rape case was opened at local police station and transferred to Polokwane Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit and managed to apprehend the accused on the 18th of December 2009 at his residence in Mentz Badimu village. The Provincial Commissioner of Police in Limpopo, Lieutenant General Thembi Hadebe, has welcomed the court outcome in ridding this province of criminals such as Matome Johannes Siabi from the society.
Residents of Renendal near Knysna in the Western Cape have barricaded the road leading to the area after being without water for the past 12 days. Water supply problems have been persistent in Knysna and surrounding areas for the past 2 years. Officials at the municipality have blamed aging infrastructure. A Renendal resident, Sebastian Simon, says they are frustrated.
We have a reservoir. The first problem was with the valves, and then with the pumps, and then again with the pumps. Pumps was broken, and then they had to send it back to the supplier, come back to that. And the current problem we're having now is a sewer problem. It is the drains, the streets, the drains are not blocked, as open, it's opening up. The whole community is stinking.
The humanitarian aid organization Gift of the Givers has deployed 2 water tankers en route from the Eastern Cape to assist the municipality. A delivery of 5,000 water bottles from Cape Town will also be made available to health clinics, schools and old age homes around the Knysna area. A special council meeting is set for today to declare the municipality district a local disaster. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has described the Russian delegation sent to Turkey as stand-in props after President Vladimir Putin decided not to engage in direct talks with him there. Zelensky spoke on arrival in Ankara for discussions with the Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The BBC's Vitaly Shevchenko has the details.
All we know is that President Zelensky had challenged Vladimir Putin to come to Turkey in person, but instead the Kremlin is sending a very junior delegation headed by a key presidential advisor, formerly Culture Minister Vladimir Medinsky. Now, this kind of juniority will probably insult the Ukrainians after Volodymyr Zelensky repeatedly said, Vladimir Putin, I want you to be here.
Recapping the top story, the Washington Post reports that the White House National Security Council has ordered all agencies and departments to suspend work with the G20 conference that South Africa is hosting later this year. I'm Ondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Amajita aim to thrill in the semi-final against Nigeria. Augustus Chituka and Makaza invited to Second-Bok alignment camp, and Jos Butler willing to skip the IPL playoffs to play in England's one-day and T20 series against West Indies. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg queuing towards Crown Interchange. The N1 southbound has a crash at the N12 Diepkloof Interchange, and Rivonia Road northbound in Morningside has a crash at Hill Road. In KZN, the M13 westbound in Kloof has a crash near Maytime Stores, and Mgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, Albert Road outbound in Woodstock is slow moving towards Salt River Circle, Marine Drive northbound queuing through Milnerton, and West Coast Road in Parklands slow moving at Porterfield Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The wait is over. I've been hustling, grinding, and now it's time for the glow up you've been waiting for. Unapologetically, made the pay. From the grind to the glam. Anele Zondo The Glow Up on Saturdays at 8 p.m. only on SABC 1, Mzansi, for sure.
This May, SAFM celebrates Africa Month with you. As we honor the legacy of the Organization of African Unity, we bring you rich conversations and stories that shape the continent. Join us as we celebrate African pride, unity, and progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so what for you has moved the National Pulse more today for you than anything else? The conversation with Dr. Naledi Pandor, perhaps, or with Sophie Mokoena, in fact, looking ahead to President Ramaphosa's visit to the USA next week, or the talk of Panyaza Lesufi and his future or not in 2027 and beyond, as per the chat I had with Andre Duvenacher. All your thoughts are most welcome. We're going to talk about an interesting development that took place in Parliament yesterday that comes up with regard to the EFF and Grady Mantashe's son just now. But there's further comments about some of the issues we've touched on already.
Good afternoon, Ashraf Garda and your hardworking team of producers behind you. My name is Impe Pumpireni from Limpopo Mkumbane village. Ashraf, when the ruling party came into power, they told us that we as people on the ground shall govern. But now, they are governing us. They are no longer listening to us. I think it is a high time now, after 31 years, to change the constitution of the country. Our constitution is full of loopholes. Foreigners do enjoy fruits of our country than us. How many billions are spent to foreigners through road accident fund? How many foreigners are given shelter whilst us living under the trees? How many foreigners getting grant whilst us having nothing to eat? Let there be a referendum to vote for constitutional change. If we as people on the ground are governing this country. Thank you so much. I am Mpepho Mpireni, Limpopo Mkumbane Village.
Thank you, Mpepho. But I mean, I'm trying to understand what you mean. So you will change the constitution only on the basis of foreigners? I mean, that sounds like that's like a Trump way of doing things. I mean, surely there's always going to be foreign nationals in countries. I think countries need the diversity. What you need to do is, yes, you need to have better checks and balances in terms of your border controls, and that the people who do work here who are foreign nationals are qualified to do their jobs. But what you really need to focus on is to grow the economy, which even if there were no foreigners, it's a bit of a disaster at this point in time because it's not enough. Nowhere. It's shrunk completely. That's where the focus has got to be. That's what I see. What do you think? Let's talk about something that was picked up yesterday. The EFF's MP, Sihle Lonzi, was ejected, really keyword, ejected from Parliament after questioning the Department of Higher Education's appointment of Gwede Mantashe's son, that's Boyambo Mantashe, as the chairperson of the Manufacturing, Engineering and Related Devices Sector Education and Training Authority, which is called the MERSETA, on the board itself, right? So let's find out exactly what were the complaints about, why the ejection, and certainly where does the EFF's position go to from here. Sihle Lonzi, appreciate your time and thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
No, thank you very much, and want to take this opportunity to greet all the listeners at home.
Thank you. So let's start with, firstly, your point. You raised some issues in Parliament. What were they?
My brother, I actually put forward a very simple question. I did not raise my voice. I did not insult anyone. I did not belittle anyone. I put it to the Director General of Higher Education and said, DG, have you made appointments to the SETA boards? Before the DG could even reach out to his microphone to respond to my question, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Higher Education, Letsia, jumps and says to me, the DG cannot answer that question. I then asked the chair to say, why are you responding on behalf of the DG? Because we're not talking about someone who is not here. We're talking about someone who is sitting right across me. He understands English. He is empowered to turn on his microphone and say, Honorable Member, for whatever reason that he was going to give me yesterday, I'm unable to answer this question. So they did not want to allow me to pose that question. And then we went back and forth for about 20 minutes simply because the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Higher Education didn't want me to ask the DG if they've made board appointments. Why? Because where I was going with this, we know that there is a very improper process through the whistleblowers who have told us that has taken place in the SETA board appointments. Allies of Gwede Mantashe in the ANC have been made chairpersons of boards. His current advisor is chairing one of the boards. And on top of that, his biological son, as you have correctly mentioned, has been made a chairperson of the MERSETA. That's what they are hiding here. That's what they don't want the people of South Africa to know. But what is even more shocking is that a chair of a portfolio committee, a committee which is supposed to hold the executive accountable, has now become the bodyguard and the spokesperson of the very department instead of holding it accountable.
Okay, so as you raised your issues, effectively you were prevented from raising them. Were there reasons given why you couldn't get a direct answer?
Look, they came with some frivolous reasons. They started by saying no. As the committee, they've reached a consensus that they are not going to deal with this matter today. They will deal with it another time when the minister comes. I then responded to the chair and say, I don't belong to any caucus. I'm an independent and individual member of parliament. The way in which parliament works is that even if you belong to the same political parties, and you see this when it comes to voting, the speaker does not address members as having belonging to this party or that party. All of us are addressed as individual members of parliament. So I made the point to the chair to say, I am not part of any caucus which wants to evade accountability. I am going to raise my question sharply, and I'm not going to be told by you how to do that. When he was defeated in that argument, he then came back and said, and the footage is there on YouTube, he then came back and said, well, you can't ask the DG if he has made appointments because it's not the prerogative of the DG to make appointments. The person that makes appointments is the minister. I disagreed with him on that, but for the sake of peace, because I didn't want to degenerate the sitting, because I genuinely wanted to get this information out of the DG, I then made a concession to say, no problem, I am going to rephrase my question. I am no longer going to say, DG, have you made board appointments? Although I disagree with the ruling of the chair, but for the sake of peace, let me rephrase my question. I then rephrase my question and say, DG, as the Director General of Higher Education, are you aware? So do you see the change? I'm no longer asking him if he has made the appointments. I'm asking him, are you aware of the board appointments? Are you aware that the son of Minister Gwede Mantashe has been made the chair of the MESITA?
And was there a response? Yeah.
Even if you watch the whole video, it's about a 20-minute interaction. Not once did the chair of the committee allow the DG even to acknowledge the question, which I found to be very nefarious.
All right, let's move on. You were ultimately then ejected from Parliament. We got that right. How, in terms of the thrust of your question, what is it about the appointment or the potential appointment of Gwede Mantashe's son, Buyambo Mantashe, to the MERSITA board that so angers or infuriates or concerns you?
I think really, my brother here, and one gets to see how tone deaf our leaders are. A few days ago, we received the statistics in terms of the number of unemployment in South Africa. The number of young unemployed people in South Africa, almost half the youth population, close to 3 million of them, they are not in education, they are not in training, the so-called NEET youth. Now, the SETAs are supposed to play that role of upskilling our young people, upskilling our population, especially those who are not either in the university space or in the TVET space. Now, for many years, comrades of the ANC and leaders of the ANC have used the SETAs to loot them, steal money from the SETAs. By the way, when we watched that committee, we're getting a report from the construction SETA, and it is shocking when we hear things from the SIU like 300 million rands has gone missing, money was paid to the wrong account. So those are the stories we get to hear, and these are all manufactured problems which ANC people use to loot and steal money from the SETAs.
All right, I hear that. Let's then be specific. I mean, in a case like this, right, do you think that, that the law doesn't prevent a son of a sitting MP or cabinet minister from being appointed to a board, does he?
It doesn't, but it becomes problematic when members of parliament want to understand which process was followed. Because if there was nothing to hide, because you're correct, there's nothing wrong if you have followed the correct process, if you did not use nepotism, if you did not close out other candidates, if we followed the process to the T, then you should not need to hide that process. In fact, you must boldly come out as the department to say, we're actually proud that we have appointed this person because we've followed the process. Because where my question wants to go is just that I was not given the opportunity to go that far, was to say that what process was followed in appointing all the chairpersons of the SETA boards. And that is where the people of South Africa were going to see that not the correct processes were followed. Because remember, the current Minister of Higher Education and Training was the Deputy Minister of Minister Gwede Mantashe under DMRE. So already that conflict, someone who was a Deputy Minister of Gwede finds herself being a Minister of Higher Education, and then next thing is appointing the son of Gwede. On top of appointing the son of Gwede, is appointing the current advisor to Gwede. Currently, if you check, the current
I mean, clearly the story has got so many legs to it. Are you at all questioning, besides the proximity to Gwede Mantashe, his son and father and son, are you questioning the actual qualifications and the suitability of Buyambo Mantashe for the job at all?
The only way for us to find out is if there is transparency. I don't want to make any conclusions about Buyambo. I am simply asking the question. I am saying to the department, can you please be transparent about your processes when it comes to appointing board chairpersons and board members in the SETAs and many other entities in higher education? I don't want to individualize the matter, Because whether it's Gwede's son or it was Cyril Ramaphosa's son or Paul Mashatile's son is neither here nor there for me. Really what we want to find out is, did you follow the correct processes at the department? And because they are so coming clean and accountable, they are actually the ones who are forcing us to want to dig further to say, why is this information being hidden? Maybe there is more to it than the eyes.
And further digging, I'm sure you will do. Just a quick one then. I mean, would you then, in broad terms, without looking at these two names, would you support the proposal that, in fact, a father and son or son of a board member or a cabinet minister should not be appointed to a board? Yes, no?
I wouldn't support a universal statement like that, especially because I think that the Constitution of South Africa protects all of us as individual citizens. Freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of work, and all of those things. But what I won't agree to is if a son uses the fact that their father is connected politically and in government for him to be able to either get tenders in government, get employment in government, or get appointments in government.
And that could apply to everybody as well, I'm sure of that. Sitle Lonzi, appreciate your time there from the EFF. A fascinating conversation that. This is the National Pulse.
We all have dreams. Some people dream to be astronauts, while others want to yell, Vimba, as they chase that elusive shoplifter sprinting out and into Diamond Walk. Others might look at a broomstick and think to themselves that witchcraft might be the way to go. The possibilities are endless. But for Hollywood stars Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, their dreams is to make it big in the English football leagues. Tune into Welcome to Wrexham as the duo aim to turn Wrexham AFC into an underdog story that the world can root for, bringing hope and change to the community. Welcome to Wrexham, Saturdays at 3 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
This year, our entire continent will gather, people from different places united by a common goal, to discover, to connect, and to grow. The world will get to see our vision, the vast potential that lies within an unlimited Africa, with the objective of creating market access to our vast array of leisure tourism products. Join us from 12 to 15 May at the Durban ICC for this unforgettable experience. South Africa awaits. Come find your joy. Africa's Travel Indaba is proudly brought to you by South African Tourism.
Save and win a car with Spar, for real. Stand to win one of 50 fiery red Hyundai Grand i10 sedans. Buy any participating products and swipe your rewards card to enter. Get 8 kg Spar Wolf dog food for $159.99 plus 400 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 700 grams Spar pre-packed cheese for $89.99 plus 200 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Prices valid until 19 May while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
I tell you what, we need answers every single day. I mean, here's one that is such a disturbing story. You heard the story of 3 inmates from Pollsmoor Maximum Security, and the key is maximum security. So these dangerous inmates from Pollsmoor Maximum Security Prison have disappeared. And in terms of what they were convicted of, it's rape and murder. They're no longer in custody. They somehow have just disappeared. Let's find out the story, because Nicholas Gotzel, the MP and DA's National Council of Provinces member on security and justice, certainly wants answers. Appreciate your time, Nicholas. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. I find the story most bizarre. Tell me more about it.
Well, I also actually didn't believe it when I first heard of the story. So the one part of it is of course, that a gentleman by the name of Xolani de Pre robbed a gentleman in Tableview of his cell phone at his house. But this gentleman said there is no way that he was just going to become another statistic. And he apprehended this guy himself, and him and his son then took them to Tableview Police Station. And it was at Tableview Police Station where they realized that this guy is actually meant to serve, I'll call it an 11-year sentence in Pollsmoor for the brutal murder of a young makeup artist 3 years ago. Okay. And I started scratching, and it would appear then that this gentleman And well, part of his sentence, he was only 17 when he was convicted, and he was sent to a youth care centre here in Cape Town, and there he had met 2 other friends, and together they had caused a lot of problems, and it all culminated in them attacking a youth care worker and stabbing the youth care worker with a sharpened object.
Okay.
So then the youth care centre said, well, we can't look after these guys. They've now turned 18. They're no longer youths. And they should be running normal Criminal Procedure Act charges. And they applied to the High Court to have them transferred to Pollsmoor. So they arrived at Pollsmoor, but from Pollsmoor they had to attend court hearings for the attack on the childcare worker. And in this whole process, they vanished.
So they vanish from where to where? I mean, so one thing is the convictions, and that's a legal issue. The other one is they effectively in custody and moved from place A to B. And how, can you tell me more about your understanding of how they vanished? Yeah.
So there were. I mean, it's very technical, the spat between the Child Youth Care Centre and the magistrate in Blue Downs at the time, but the important thing to remember here is that the High Court issued an order on the 17th of July last year, and said that they must be remanded in Pollsmoor until the merits of that specific High Court case, which is only heard in October this year, can be heard. So they then became inmates at Pollsmoor prison, and Pollsmoor then effectively has to take custody of them and is responsible for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you've effectively want answers from the Minister of Correctional Services. I mean, have you received an answer, from Minister Peter Groenewald as yet, or anybody else that is convincing enough for you to say, okay, I don't agree, but I understand what may have happened?
Well, after I realized that these other, I had some a little bit of investigative work done, and I figured that the other two, that this Xolani du Preez is actually back in Pollsmoor, obviously because he was reapprehended. But there was absolute silence. When the story initially was reported on by a Cape Town newspaper, the Correctional Services just said, oh, well, there could be several other Xolani du Preez. Now, I mean, I don't know about you, but that's quite a unique name and surname combination. And when I eventually got word that the other two are actually not in Pollsmoor, I then wrote to the minister on Monday. I said to him, listen, this is the situation. I believe that whilst Xolani is there, the other two are not. And can you please explain to me how Xolani was not there on the 17th of April when he robbed Mr. Walters? And they responded by saying all 3 of them are in remand detention at Pollsmoor. So I went there myself on Wednesday. I said that I want to do an unannounced oversight visit. The officials were nice enough. They spoke to me. They showed me the system, and they couldn't find them. The one was sent to Drakenstein last year, and from there he was released according to their system in February this year. And he is the guy who was accused, who was serving a sentence for rape. And the second guy they couldn't find on their system because there was another Mikhail Mentor. It was a whole mess. Okay. It was just a mess.
All right, let's wrap up by saying this then. What do you then, based upon what you know now, what can you conclude at this point in time?
Well, what I can conclude is that there is a complete mess in our correctional services, and I'll tell you why. The minister appeared in the NCOP today, and I said to him, you came here today and you told us what your plan is. You had a whole plan prepared and all the priorities of the department. I said, but you didn't know on Monday when I told you about this guy that he was missing. And his answer to me was that he didn't know because the officials didn't tell him. So, he has an executive responsibility to ensure the effective systems and oversight and the accountability are in place. And that is very worrisome.
Okay.
That he did not know.
Let's leave it at that. Nicholas Gotzel, so many questions. So the Lancers, MPDA's National Council of Provinces member on security and justice. Thank you for your time. Let's get to the news headlines. It's for 30 years on Della.
Thank you, Ashraf, for the news headlines. The ANC in Gauteng believes it's gradually moving towards the right direction in ensuring they improve in the upcoming 2026 local elections. The Washington Post reports that the White House National Security Council has ordered all agencies and departments to suspend work for the G20 conference that South Africa is hosting later this year. And Sudan's electricity company says drone strikes have hit 3 power stations in the city of Omdurman, which lies across the Nile River from Khartoum. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Midrand has a stationary vehicle near Allendale Road. Rivonia Road northbound has a crash at Hill Road, and the N3 northbound in Betterview queuing on the link to the N12 east at Giluli's interchange. In KZN, the M7 eastbound queuing at South Coast Road. Onumgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound queuing towards the M5 Koeberg interchange, the M3 Philip Hosana Drive outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and Main Road northbound slow moving through St. James. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, it's been very much, besides Sundowns now, we move off Sundowns off the radar, Amajita on the radar, yeah.
It's national duty time. Amajita head coach Raymond Mdaka says that he expects the pressure to be less when they meet with Nigeria in the semi-final at 5 p.m. South African time today, with qualification for the World Cup done and dusted. The two teams, together with Morocco and Egypt, have qualified for the World Cup in Chile in September. But now it's all about the glory of being crowned African champions, and Mdaka feels that his boys will be able to express themselves.
Yeah, obviously, as you know, the priority was to qualify for the World Cup. But the fact that we are still in the tournament, it means we'll always take the next game exactly like we take other games. There is no need to get in the field of play and say we have qualified, we're not playing. But it also gives us the latitude just to put some other 2-3 because 2-3 players that could not get game time, but at the same time thinking more about the game and balancing the game and doing the best that we can do.
Meanwhile, the Premier Soccer League has decided to delay the handover of the Motsepe Foundation Championship Cup, citing unresolved matters that are still underway or under review by the league's prosecutor and disciplinary bodies. Usually the trophy is handed over after the final match of the season. However, the league has opted to postpone the ceremony as certain issues raised by member clubs are still under investigation and may potentially influence the final table. Meanwhile, Liverpool's Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah and Ryan Gravenberch have been nominated for the Premier League's Player of the Season award. Van Dijk has played every game of Liverpool this season, helping the club reckon 14 clean sheets, while midfielder Gravenberch has only missed one match, while Salah has registered a league-high 46 goal contributions, including 28 goals. In rugby, Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has named a group of 54 local and overseas-based players to attend the team's second alignment camps, with Joano Augustus, Vincent Chituka and Dogozo Makaza invited to their first national alignment camps. The camps will take place in person in Cape Town for local players and virtually for players that are based outside South Africa. From the 22nd of May to the 23rd, respectively, 36 players will attend the in-person camp, with 18 players currently plying their trade abroad in Japan and Northern Hemisphere joining virtually, training schedule permitting. Then in the meantime, condolences have continued to pour in for former South African international Cornel Hendricks, who passed away at the age of 37 after suffering a heart attack. The winger made his test debut for the Springboks against Wales in 2014, having also played sevens for his country. Now Hendricks was forced to retire from professional rugby 10 years ago after being diagnosed with a heart condition. In cricket, Jos Buttler will skip the Indian Premier League playoffs if Gujarat Titans qualify so that he can play as part of England's one-day and T20 series squad against West Indies. The former captain is one of 5 players named in the England one-day squad who are in the IPL. The rescheduling of the IPL amid political tensions between India and Pakistan means that the latter stages clash with the England series. The IPL resumes on Saturday and the playoffs begin on the 29th of May. And the final is on the 3rd of June. Well, that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Perfect.
Do you want an experience of a lifetime? Where every day is filled with challenges of providing Lisa Vanderpump curated experiences while dealing with rivalries, romances, and misadventures. It's drama at Vanderpump's French Estate. Chantel Rosabelle and the staff can't wait to give you a front row seat to all the drama. Catch Vanderpump Villa, Saturdays on S3 at 8:30 p.m. S3 open up. S3.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mwekezi.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Still more to come. We'll certainly take your calls. We'll get your WhatsApp comments on some of the biggest issues that moves the pulse today. We'll also get further reactions, certainly from an ANC perspective, regarding the whole row with the EFF's MP, Sihle Lonzi, that comes up after 5. We chat to Professor Somadora Fikeni about is Ubuntu still alive in society today. All of that's still to come. But let's get to the markets with Paswane Mpatlele, Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Right, we've got news local and global in a moment, but first things first, what about Sanlam?
Afternoon, Ashraf, and to your listeners. Yes, Sanlam, they gave us their operational update for the 3 months ending March, and it's a good update. The insurance companies reflecting on strong performance across their core businesses, like general insurance up 49%, investment management up 16%. They're seeing 21% growth in new business inflows, so there's just generally good growth across that diversified portfolio, but caution remains around the global uncertainty they highlight, and the stock is generally up over 2%. Looking into the markets, Ashraf, when markets try to transition, there is challenges for investors to know which way to go. And currently the transition is still leaning towards outside the recession in the short term to growth, as the likes of yields have been rising, as most cuts are being priced out in terms of interest rate. This is supporting the dollar on key levels around the 100.8, looking for a breakout, but yet to see. US Fed is providing support with its caution around higher rates in the future because of inflation volatility. Taking these developments, oil prices are getting pressured, lower 2% to $64.45 a barrel. Further pressure comes from the fact that Iran and US might be working on a nuclear deal that is progressing. Gold rebounds above a key level, up 0.8% at $3,205 an ounce, more supported by the weak US data we've seen today. Retail sales not growing much, while PPI, producer price inflation, is down over 1%. And there's the negotiations between Ukraine and Russia is losing a bit of pace. We've seen both presidents pitch up there. Locally, mining production remains a disappointment, easing though at just down 2.8%, extending the trend of weakness. But on a positive side, we've seen that there's been a signal from the South African government about the imminent reversion of the inflation targeting framework. This signaling a policy reform that and physical coordination from a monetary and fiscal policy, which is what investors are looking for and are confident that we've seen it being very happy. Yields came down down. Rand strengthened up to 1% across the board. Looking into equities, Ashraf, we see the Dow and S&P is down 0.4. Nasdaq is down 0.8. Europe, its FTSE Dex is up 0.4. CAC flat. We see the JSE with also the budgeting looking like it's going to get a certain deal to be announced next week. JSE is flat thanks to as investors were down 0.9%, but our resources were up 0.7%, and financials gained 1% thanks to that stronger rand we spoke about. Rand against the dollar is at 18.07, rand against the euro is 20.22, and rand against the pound sitting at 24 rand.
Okay, and you've covered it all. Appreciate your time. We'll do it again tomorrow. Paswane Mpatlele, Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Right, what are we going to still do? Oh, we're going to play some sound, very important sound. We spoke about the Minister of Health and what his thoughts are regarding the issues of, global health funding and the impact it's had on South Africa. We'll talk about that next.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, so you may be aware that earlier today, the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, convened a meeting, in fact a media briefing, to provide an update on the progress being made to mitigate the impact of funding withdrawals. So we know that there's been funding withdrawals, not just for South Africa, but around the world since Donald Trump took office at the White House, right? So how do we mitigate against that, right? Particularly with response to the issues of HIV, AIDS, and TV programs in our country, right? So what we've done, we picked out a few clips that we think are worth reflecting on. First of all, the minister confirmed that the fight against HIV, AIDS, and TB continues, as I expect him to say, in the areas that the government have been focused on.
It is rather unfortunate. It is a rather unfortunate belief that it seems like there is a belief that the battle against HIV and AIDS can only happen in offices or government buildings, public or private. And if the campaign is not seen there in such buildings, then it means it is not happening. We wish to confirm today that the fight against HIV and AIDS and TB is in our villages, in our communities and townships, and even on the streets of our country. And that is where our focus has been, and as it should be. Many here might have forgotten the real crisis brought about by HIV and AIDS, which was the biggest crisis globally and happened in South Africa, especially around 2010, where death was an everyday occurrence. We were burying people in large numbers every day. There was a big absenteeism from work. Children were being killed as their mothers were dying. By that time, maternal mortality driven by this pandemic had reached a staggering 249 per 100,000 live births. I want to repeat, a staggering 249 women were dying per every 100,000 live births. And the number of children who were born HIV positive was high. As a response, we launched the world's biggest HIV counseling, testing, and treatment campaign. We then announced that we're going to test 15 million South Africans in 1 year as part of that massive campaign. I want to remind you that we were never given a chance. Experts from all walks of life, including even the media, never gave us any chance because they thought we were just going to continue along the lines of voluntary counseling and testing, or VCT, as it was called that time, which relied on passive self-reporting, where people will come into health facilities to ask to be tested. Our target of 15 million people was attacked as an unattainable pipe dream. And we were told that the best that we could achieve was to reach 3 million people only after 1 year of hard work. We did not relent. We rather changed the approach from voluntary counseling and testing to what we then called HCT, HIV counseling and testing, meaning we go out in the villages, churches, places of work, communities, sport clubs, royal families, to offer South Africans counseling and testing, and to put those who are positive on ARV treatment.
And the minister said more. He made the point, for those who are concerned about it, that the issues of the HIV/AIDS program is not on the brink of collapse.
I did raise aspects of that matter with...
In fact, we'll get to Naledi Pandor in a moment. Let's go back to the Minister of Health, and I'll just check if we've got the clip. Yeah. So he made the point, the minister, that, yes, the HIV/AIDS program is not on the brink of collapse.
Conceivable that out of 46.8 billion rand spent by the country on HIV/AIDS program, the withdrawal of 7.9 billion by President Trump will immediately lead to a collapse of the entire program. We believe it's inconceivable. Ladies and gentlemen, we must put it categorically clear that under no circumstances will we allow this massive work performed over a period of more than a decade and a half to collapse and go up in smoke because President Trump has decided to do what he has done.
Okay, so
if we do so, we'll have thrown massive investment in time, money, and human resources away. And at any rate, we don't want to go back to the period where death was the order of the day.
And I think that's a very important point. We cannot regress no matter what. Is that context? I had a chat with Dr. Naledi Pandor earlier on about many other things in the role of, CSI projects and NGOs in a developmental state. And she commented on the issue of HIV/AIDS ahead of Ramaphosa's trip to the USA next week.
I did raise aspects of that matter with reference to the withdrawal of U.S. funding for the health sector, particularly HIV programs. As you know, this could have a dire impact and has certainly had an impact on NPOs. I think there is a vital role that the private sector should play in closing the gap that has been created by the United States, because we don't want to go back to a situation in which we see people dying of HIV and of AIDS in our country. We had made very important strides, and in my view, the private sector could step in and play a role. I express concern about, science and research centers that have done incredible work on HIV suddenly facing closure. And I called on the corporates present at the conference that they need to really give attention to the effects and the fallout related to withdrawal of international aid, not just from the United States, but reductions from European countries as well.
And that conversation with Dr. Naledi Pandor we had about an hour ago. You can catch it as a podcast, safm.coza, but it's also tweeted out right away. So Fusani has done that. Go to our Twitter feed as well as on Facebook. And the same with the other conversation. Sophie Mokoena talking ahead of President Ramaphosa's trip to the USA next week. You can listen to that one and the conversation about Panyaza Lesufi that we had, not with him, about him and what's his plans beyond 2027. But it's time for me to get a sense of what you're thinking, because you have your fingers on the pulse.
The wait is over. I've been hustling, grinding, and now it's time for the glow up you've been waiting for. Unapologetically, May the Bay. From the grind to the glam. Anelezondo the glow up on Saturdays at 8 p.m. only on SABC 1, Mzansi for sure.
Marawai, why did you think a plastic bag and tape was a solid window replacement after that smash and grab? And why does it sound like a kite every time you hit Boma 60Ks? Marawai, why aren't you insured with Santam, the insurer that covers theft or attempted hijacking? Get your car covered online in just 2 minutes or SMS cover to 36101. Santam, this is freedom. T's and C's apply. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, I need to hear what you have to say. Fingers on the pulse. Ronald in Midrand, go for it. Ronald, hi.
Ashraf,
Yeah.
I feel the ANC must not play around. They need Panyaza. Panyaza is one of the most popular person who resonates with the grassroots. And among the remaining activists of the ANC, he's the one who is still linked with the masses, and he speaks their language. Even his performance is much better than most of those who are deployed by the ANC. So I think he's one of their best. The fact that he didn't want the DA in the provincial government of Gauteng shouldn't make him an enemy of the people. He's the best, a few of the best remaining in the ANC.
But doesn't the fact that he's not committing that he will stay the course beyond 2027, doesn't that suggest that there may be problems within the leadership and he maybe sees the end of the road for himself within formal party structures?
It does suggest, you see, because he realized he's being haunted now. The fact that they disbanded his provincial government is a sign. You know, when the ANC goes to a conference, you see things like this. They destroy each other. So he's trying to save himself so that he doesn't put his head in the guillotine. But I don't see his life outside politics. I don't see him doing anything other than in politics.
Okay, got that. Interesting. I mean, you're not the first person who said so. The analyst that we chatted to earlier on, Professor Andre Dubanach, who said the same thing. He says he cannot see Panyaza Lesufi anywhere else but in the political space. Ronald, thanks for that in Midrand. Tulani in Cape Town. Go for it, Tulani. Hi.
Steve, how are you?
Yeah, good. Go for it. What's your point?
Look, I'd like to address the President. Sir, Mr. President, Honorable One, I would like to give you advice on two things. The first thing is, don't attend that meeting with Donald Trump. It's not good. He's going to try and embarrass you. He's going to try to do exactly the same thing that he did to Zelensky to you. The second thing, because you're on the way there, I've heard. So the second thing is, because you're going to go there, don't go to the meeting anyway. Find the opportunity to meet future presidents of America. A wise person doesn't see the fire in front of them. They realize that the fire will not burn forever. Trump's term will end. Make good relationships for the future presidents of South Africa so that they can build relationships for the future of us. 4 years is not long. We can wait. That's my message.
Okay, got that. I wonder, Tulani in Cape Town saying don't basically show him up or stand him up. Is that the right word? Go there, but don't go there. I wonder. I think it's too late for that, isn't it? Glenn in Bedford View. Go for it, Glenn. Hi.
Ashraf, good afternoon, my friend.
Yeah, good afternoon. Right. What's your point?
I'm going to be super quick. I think Ramaphosa going to Trump next week is a futile exercise. Trump has already made up his mind. Trump knows very well that there's no genocide in South Africa. He knows that there's no taking over of any white farms. He knows that very well, but he is doing what he's doing to frustrate South Africa because of the case at the ICJ. That's the crux of the matter. Ramaphosa going there is going to be more embarrassed than this man from the UK. If we thought that man was embarrassed, Ramaphosa is going to be worse next week. That's my 2 cents with Ashraf, my friend.
Well, I must tell you, I mean, I tend to agree to the. I'm not saying he's going to be embarrassed. The plus sides people are saying that Ramaphosa has been skilled as a negotiator going through our own settlement, but that's such a long time ago. I mean, it's 30 years and plus, right? On the other hand, by the nature of Donald Trump, he is bombastic. So why would he suddenly just change for a person who, as late as 2 days ago, again he called what's happening in South Africa genocide? Why would he change that? What does Ramaphosa have to do to come out of that meeting with a victory? In fact, it's something I put to Dr. Naledi Pandor when I chatted to her just now, and this is what she said.
I think it would be great if President Ramaphosa could persuade President Trump to visit South Africa for a few days and get to know our country better. Because unfortunately, our country has been misrepresented to him, and I think he has come to believe that, we're all bloodthirsty people in this country killing, particularly black people killing white Afrikaners, South Africans, which I think is such a misrepresentation that it needs to be cleared up. And I think while the meeting is certainly welcome, I think a meeting in Washington is insufficient to really introduce the real South Africa to President Trump.
Okay, well, there we are. A meeting is insufficient. He needs to come and visit South Africa. Will he do just that? What's in it for him? What about G20? Not even happening at the moment in terms of the U.S. involvement. Right, let's get further comments. Khotso in Midrand. Hi, Khotso.
Afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, how's it, man? Go for it.
Yeah, let me also reiterate to the same sentiment that we are making an appeal to President Ramaphosa to don't even dare try and go there. Because it's going to be one of, if you thought that Zelensky was embarrassed, wait and see. I dare you see. Look, those sentiments of saying Ramaphosa is a good negotiator and everything, those has passed. The horse has bolted. We are in the modern era. Try to assist your listeners, Ashraf, to say we are no longer there in those eras.
Well, I just said so myself.
It's a different thing.
Okay, Khotso, I actually said that.
Currently, as you're speaking, Ramaphosa, you can't compare to some of the modern leaders.
Okay, got that.
In terms of modernity, political involvement and modernity, Ramaphosa is still coming slowly, has not even arrived there. But to Trump doesn't even take a black person as a human being. What about Ramaphosa to go there? While he managed to even embarrass his very own.
All right, got that, Khotso. I don't know about, I agree with you about we can't compare what happened 30 odd years ago with now. I do think that he's got to meet him. There's no way, political adversaries meet all the time. I do think he's got to meet him. The question is, what does he come out of it with?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Mandla here in Bushia Park. I hear the professor talking about the ANC. As he's saying that Panyaza Lesufi might not obtain the higher leadership position due to poor governance. After all, Ashraf, who amongst the ANC leaders has got a good track record in good governance? Most of the ANC people don't vote a person just because they know how to fill up the potholes or to unblock the sewage. They vote for them due to being popular. As much as Mbalula always fight Panyaza Lesufi, people are paying more attention to Lesufi. As much as what is happening to Jacob Zuma, Mbalula always insult them. I thank you.
Okay, and there's another that talks about us as South Africans.
Hello, Ashraf. It's Tammy in East London. Ashraf, I blame South Africans for all this nonsense that is being done by ANC people. Because next year, in the voting season, when it comes, people of South Africa are going to forget that or half of them are going to forget what we are currently going through now. It serves them correct that the ANC is treating people like this.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think, let's be fair. The ANC has been in power in every election since the dawn of democracy. But in the last election, people decided, I won't say they went against them, but less people supported them than ever before. And the reasons were that they've been disgruntled. So the big challenge to the ANC is if they want our votes, they have to convince us that they're the party that should be in charge. And in fact, that challenge is to every other party, from the ANC to the DA to the MK party and the EFF and Action SA and Rise Mzansi. I can go all the way down, Freedom Front Plus. They have to convince us they must get our support, isn't it? Think about that. Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg Coase.
Thank you, Ashraf. ANC confident of election recovery and the launch of Child Protection Week. Good day to you. The ANC in Gauteng believes it's moving in the right direction in ensuring they improve in the upcoming 2026 local government elections. The party recorded a poor performance in last year's elections, which led to the reconfiguration of the ANC's provincial structure by the party's National Executive Committee. The convener of the ANC's Gauteng Provincial Task Team and Provincial Chairperson, Phanyasa Lesufi.
The by-elections that we've won, or the wards that we're defending, that were led by the African National Congress, we've been having an election machinery that we didn't dismantle ever since 2024. We kept that machinery. We didn't behave in a fashion where after elections then you dismantle our volunteers, our election structures, the leadership of the RET coordinators of elections. We kept those people. Obviously with the PTT, we brought new people to lead elections.
The Washington Post is reporting that the White House National Security Council has ordered all agencies and departments to suspend work with the G20 conference that South Africa is hosting later this year. This emerges as the South African presidency confirmed overnight that President Cyril Ramaphosa will travel to Washington next week to meet with President Donald Trump at the White House. Sherwin Bryce Peace reports.
The move would be just the latest decision to undermine South Africa's hosting of the G20 after the U.S. Secretary of State and Treasury Secretary boycotted ministerial meetings earlier this year, following President Trump's executive order on so-called egregious actions in the Republic. Trump earlier this week again leveled the accusation of white genocide against the government, just as Afrikaner refugees arrived in the USA, and suggested he would not attend the G20 summit unless the situation was taken care of. The South African presidency was hoping next week's White House meeting would serve as a reset in the strategic relationship. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.
Corruption and poor governance are posing a serious risk to global stability. That's according to the chairperson of the Nelson Mandela Foundation and former International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor. She was speaking at the International Forum of Terrorism Risk Insurance Pools Conference in Cape Town.
Strong democratic institutions play an important role in reducing risk. In South Africa, we adopted a constitution that strictly and clearly mandates separation of powers between Parliament, the executive, and the judiciary. Respect for this separation has played a strategic role in our young democracy.
The Department of Social Development launched Child Protection Week under the theme Working Together to End Violence Against Children. 3,000 cases of child abuse are recorded in the past financial year. The Eastern Cape Social Development MEC, Obukiwe Fanta.
Becoming rife in our country and our province, and we really want communities to be aware of these are the children. Our children are a gift from God, irrespective of the disability. So we want to highlight that parents must take care of their kids, whatever disability, autism is what they must love and take care of them.
Sudan's energy company says drone strikes have hit 3 power stations in the city of Omdurman, causing widespread power outages. The BBC's Barbara Plett-Usher has more.
Sudan's electricity company said 3 distribution transformer stations had been subject to drone attacks. It said power outages in Khartoum state disrupted services and increased the suffering of citizens. Khartoum's state government accused the Rapid Support Forces of launching the attacks. The RSF has not commented, but in recent months it has stepped up drone strikes on critical civilian infrastructure in army-controlled areas.
The top story, the ANC in Gauteng believes it's gradually moving in the right direction in ensuring they improve in the upcoming 2026 local government elections. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Goos.
Coming up in sports, the Sawa Majita in action against Nigeria at the Under-20 AFCON, and SASCOC throws their weight behind the success of South Africa's relay teams. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N4 westbound in Pretoria has a crash after Simon Vermeulen Road. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview has a crash before Gililis interchange, and the R21 southbound in Kempton Park roadworks reported with traffic restrictions towards the R25 Babsfontein Road exit. In KZN, the M7 St John's Avenue southbound is queuing through Central Pinetown, and the M7 is queuing at South Coast Road. In Cape Town, Racecourse Road northbound in Milnerton is queuing towards Racecourse Road, and Main Road northbound, slow moving through St James. And the M5 southbound, that's slow moving towards Racecourse Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The Bees are fairly impressed with their run this season, but they want to win at home to concretize a top half position.
That's a crack, oh, what a crack. That's Brentford for you. There you go.
Yet the Cottagers want to be remembered for an away win during their penultimate game of the season.
He's done it again! Introduction! Harry Wilson makes it 2-1 to Fulham. Now go home! Off you go!
This is the Premier League. Witness the mouth-watering clash between Brentford FC and Fulham FC on Sunday 18 May at 3:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Join us this Tuesday evening at 7:30 for the latest series of SAFTA award-winning reality show, The Tastemaster SA.
Today's theme is all about bread. I love making bread. I am shaking my boots. What a bitch. We got this, we got this. Oh, that didn't sound convincing. I'm feeling a little stressed. I'm not going to mess this one up.
That's The Tastemaster SA. Tuesdays at 7:30, repeats Sundays at 4. Only on SABC2.
This May, SAFM celebrates Africa Month with you as we honor the legacy of the Organization of African Unity. We bring you rich conversations and the vibrant sounds of Africa. Music that moves the soul. This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Show still to come on the National Pulse. We'll chat to Dr. Somadoda Fikeni shortly. Before that, we'll also get an ANC response regarding the issue with Sihle Lonzi. Before I get to that, just by the way, I don't want to forget this one. Have you been following that story of Grok? You know, that's the artificial intelligence that has been created by, Elon Musk's team and pushed out through the Twitter or the X platform. So, you ask it questions and it'll respond to you. And up to now, if you ask them questions about South Africa, it would give an honest appraisal. But today, that whole thing, there's such a glitch. People are asking questions, for example, I'm trying to think about it, like, what do you make of the Donald Trump's visit to, say, the United Arab Emirates? And the answers automatically default to South Africa and a genocide in South Africa, or the attack on Afrikaners, and it's been going on all day. Complete glitch, which many are suggesting it's that type of manipulation that's taken place over a period of time that shows you how you can mass manipulate global thoughts, okay? How soon that will get fixed up, I don't know, but at this point in time, it is effectively providing answers unprovoked. So you're asking the wrong question and it's giving a different answer. And it defaults to South Africa, not always, but in many, many cases today. Don't take my word for it. You can certainly check it out. Well, what about taking the word of the ANC's whip Tsepo Low regarding the issue of the EFF MP Sihle Lonzi, right? You know, we chatted earlier to the EFF's Sihle Lonzi about his questions that he asked around the son of Gwede Mantashe, and apparently he was forcibly removed from that meeting in Parliament. So that's one part. You can listen, by the way, to the full conversation I had with him as a podcast. Just go safm.coza or on our Twitter feed anyway. But before we get, in fact, what we'll do is we'll get to Tsepo Low in a second. Before that, this is what Sihle Lonzi said.
My brother, I actually put forward a very simple question. I did not raise my voice. I did not insult anyone. I did not belittle anyone. I put it to the Director General of Higher Education and said, DG, have you made appointments to the SETA boards? Before the DG could even reach out to his microphone to respond to my question, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Higher Education, Letsia, jumps and says to me, the DG cannot answer that question. I then asked the chair to say, why are you responding on behalf of the DG? Because we're not talking about someone who is not here. We're talking about someone who is sitting right across me. He understands English. He is empowered to turn on his microphone and say, Honorable Member, for whatever reason that he was going to give me yesterday, I'm unable to answer this question. So they did not want to allow me to pose that question. And then we went back and forth for about 20 minutes simply because the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Higher Education didn't want me to ask the DG if they've made board appointments. Why? Because where I was going with this, we know that there is a very improper process through the whistleblowers who have told us that has taken place in the SETA board appointments. Allies of Gwede Mantashe in the ANC have been made chairpersons of boards. His current advisor is chairing one of the boards. And on top of that, his biological son, as you have correctly mentioned, has been made a chairperson of the MES-SETA.
Okay, that is the voice of Sihle Lonzi, the EFF MP. Right, with me is Tsepo Low, is the ANC whip of the study group on higher education. Appreciate your time, Tsepo. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
No, thank you very much. Am I audible now?
You are just about. Thank you so much. Right. So, interesting you bring up the word audible. I mean, Sihle Lonzi was pretty audible in saying he put a question through to the DG and he was prevented from getting that question answered. Can you explain why? I mean, you have a position on this.
No, thank you very much. I think we don't have a problem with asking a question, but you will understand that Parliament is operative with laws and rules. A member arrives late and an agenda gets adopted, a matter gets asked by other members, it gets clarified, they take a decision as a committee to say, because what we are called for as a committee is to discuss, construct and SETA as per the Parliament program and what we received as members of Parliament. Now, the matter of the minister and the allegations thereof of all that are being put forward and whatsoever, it's therefore said by the committee, let's put forward this matter next week, Wednesday, where the minister will bring a comprehensive report and she will come and report and then we'll therefore interrogate the matter.
Okay, just pause for the moment. Just pause. I just want to get you on a better line. If you can just pause for just a moment, right? I certainly want to hear every word that you have to say, Tsepo Low, right? In the meantime, let me just tell you this. This is the National Pulse, so we'll chat pretty shortly to Professor Somadoda Fikeni. In fact, he's both ahead of a really an important conversation that needs to be had around the concept of Ubuntu, right? Okay, I think we're back again with Tsepo Low, right? So you were saying about deferring it to next week, if I hear you correctly, right? The answer, that is.
Yes, like I said, a member arrives late, and then he finds that there was a discussion of a committee, and then the committee has agreed, unanimously they've raised the issue. The chair presides over the committee to say, look, because the minister is not here and we haven't prepared this matter as per the program of Parliament, let's put the matter in next week, Wednesday, because it's the matter of University of Limpopo, and therefore it's for the minister to come and account on what has been running around on social media so that we're able to get clarity from the minister, because the minister is the one who appoints. Now, because we remember I arrived late, and the chair is trying to, the chair must protect the meeting, and they take it in the parliament procedure to say, look, we have discussed the matter while you were not here, while you were late. And then what we have said to the committee and the minister and the department, because you are here for construction SETA, let's allow you to go and give us a comprehensive report as to who did you appoint, who's not appointed, and we will pose questions that are very much relevant at a point where Parliament is run through a program that we, all of us, adopt. So there's no need for us to want to score political points with genuine issues that need us to follow properly. Because you can imagine if Parliament is unorganized, uncoordinated, it's unprocedural, we just put things as they are, we would not be able to run the country accordingly. What is messing up the country? It is a matter of uncoordinated processes that are not followed accordingly. So the minister is arriving next week, Wednesday. We're going to scrutinize, and I want to deal with the myth. I want to deal with the notion that the African National Congress members do not want people to fight corruption. We were the first to ask all entities to say they are corrupt. They are not doing what is expected, and they must come and give a brief report as to what becomes the solution. At a midst where the unemployment is high in South Africa in the world is the highest in unemployment, and entities day and day, they come and report, but they don't bring solutions. We bring solutions. Hence, when you look at the committee, you will see that we brought proper solutions and timeframes to construction SETA, and we'll do it next week when we're going to get the report from the minister.
Okay, so I mean, look at the issue of corruption that needs to be, tested, right? I hear that, but the question that was put through from the EFF's Sihle Lonzi was to the DG, who, according to Sihle Lonzi, the DG was present in Parliament. What prevented the DG from answering?
The DG was present on an agenda of construction SETA.
Okay.
While Parliament committee in the beginning of it resolved on the matter that Sihle Lonzi asked about when he was late. Punctuality and discipline. You come early, you address your issues, you know procedure. I can't come to your show and say, let's speak about Kaizer Chiefs. No, you will have a script, it will give you guidance. We'll speak about it as we make prior preparations as legislators. We don't just wake up and do things.
Right,
we must be disciplined and we must run the country by laws so that those who are under us are able to understand what governs us and how we coordinate the laws. Now, the minister is arriving on Wednesday. The minister and the DG, they will be there on the agenda item that could be sponsored by members who were there, 9 o'clock, discipline, and could have raised it in a committee. There is no recording. Now, the myth that we never wanted it to be raised is not true. We are going to bring everybody into book. At the ultimate end, people will have to account for what they did for many years. We're not going to sit here and protect anyone. All people are suffering.
All right, point well made. Point well made. By the way, if you asked about Chiefs this week, maybe we'd talk to you about it anyway because they've been so starved of success anyway. But let's move on. Right, you are saying therefore that your direct response was not about the actual question or allegation around the relationship between Gwede Mantashe and his son. It was just not the right forum at that time. Why? So that'll happen next week. Why did it have to go to a position then where the EFF MP then was removed from the committee meeting? Why did it get to that level?
We can't have a show when I've got a sound playing behind my back and then we want to have an interview. Where that man was disruptive. Even if the chair overruled him, there are laws, there are rules. If you feel the chair was not fair to you, there are procedures. You write to the Parliament's program committee, you raise your concern. He was presided over because he came late. And he came while the matter was addressed. Now, should the meeting go back for a member who's ill-disciplined who came late in a committee, who never even apologized to have been late or delayed? It's no problem. We must agree as South Africans. Do we want competence or incompetence? That should lead us, and then we go through the noise that we get. We should respect Parliament. We should be able to have decorum as Parliament and address issues. Now, imagine you arrive in a meeting and you want to change an agenda, whereas the agenda has been adopted, and then we can't. The minister must bring a report. We must. The department is accounting to us. We are playing oversight. Now, playing oversight means you get report. The department says this is what we have done. This is which we have appointed. We have done it with many other boards. It has been happening in Parliament for many primitive years. That Parliament processes things properly. The ministers account, and if you are not satisfied, you continue to write down, and then we follow up. But at a particular moment, we were discussing construction SETA. They had serious corruptions that we're dealing with.
Okay.
There are serious issues that we have to deal with. So you can imagine if we'll have to change the rules of parliament because of
All
how
right.
we feel.
You've
The
made
matter
that
is
point.
very urgent.
Okay.
The matter is urgent. We take note of it, but the matter will be addressed by Wednesday in front of South Africans. The minister will clarify it, and then we'll question the minister, and then we'll understand what process we followed to appoint the board, and we'll understand where does the initial part of the board start. Where? When did it advertise? What was the process? Who appoints? And then how did it get to these individuals? And what do they possess in terms of their qualifications?
Okay, we're looking
and then
forward
we'll be
to
able
that.
to discuss
Right.
as to the merits of the appointment.
Okay, let's wait for Wednesday.
It's a simple process.
Let's wait for Wednesday. Here's the last thing in terms of the ANC statement, right? In Parliament, and it talks about Comrade Tebogo Letsie, and it also says it exposes the lies perpetuated by the sensationalist EFF. Why would the EFF be called sensationalist? Were they sensationalist?
That's what they want to do. If you know you've got a program, you are a member, you are honest to yourself, that you have adopted, why do you want to change it at the helm of the point where you know how does it run? It's simple. You obey by the laws, you become disciplined, you show South Africans how we operate, so that when you go down to do oversight and call for discipline, we should start by ourselves and show people that we work to a program, we work to a coordinated program that is adopted by all of us. That brings us to understand.
All right.
So it's so unfortunate that the chair had to protect the integrity of the committee and its president so that we do not derail or we do not get out of way, because we need to show a very disciplined way when we deal with genuine issues of our people.
Okay,
we do not need to score cheap politics when people are suffering and when we must deal with issues that are dealing to that.
Sepolo, you've made the point. We look for Wednesday. Significant day then. Questions and answers around the appointments of key members of the MERS-SETA at the same time on the Wednesday when Donald Trump and President Ramaphosa will be meeting face-to-face at the White House. What a big day Wednesday is going to be.
Wow, cool catch. Elmo thinks Elmo's friends are great.
Thanks, Elmo. I like how you cheer and encourage your friends, son.
Elmo likes it too.
Elmo, you are special. Who you are matters
Because we're all special.
Tune in to see what makes you special for the all-new episodes of Takalani Sesame, weekdays at 3 p.m. on SABC2.
The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma.
You just mentioned living in Shanghai.
Yes.
I mean, you've lived in China,
Yes.
in Thailand,
Yes.
in the US, as a teacher.
Yes. Yes.
And now a singer.
So, singer first, then teacher. Because I think, remember the singing, I grew up with that, right? When I moved abroad, I was really just working on securing the bag, and so that I'd be able to fund my music, because I'm an independent artist. So that's where my love for going abroad came from, because I knew that my opportunities there were much bigger than the opportunities I had in South Africa at the time. I appreciate that.
Ndlovu, Afro soul singer.
Bertha Charuma. Fridays, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So here's an important question. Is Ubuntu still alive in South African society today? And if so, just how do we see that manifesting? And I say that because the Public Service Commission, in partnership with the Model Regeneration Movement, today launched the National Advocacy Campaign on the constitutional values and principles that is aimed at rebuilding the moral fabric of our society. Goodness, that's like all the things we need, right? Ubuntu, patriotism, and a renewed sense of identity in who we are as a people, right? With me is Professor Somadora Fikeni, who's the chairperson of the Public Service Commission. Prof. Fikeni, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting once again on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much for inviting me to your program.
Thank you. Why the need to effectively place on the agenda the need for, model regeneration once again? I know there's a movement, but to put it on the agenda, does it suggest that in fact it's dropped off the agenda somewhat?
It has dropped off the agenda when you see corruption reports and many other things, such as your GBV. It tells you that the moral fiber of the society has been shredded. And in fact, this particular conference or summit, we focused on rebuilding, reimagining family. because family is seen as a building block of any community, and it is the primary socializing agent. Before you go to school, before you go to church, before you do anything, the first lessons you get, the character formation, the software and the DNA of who you become as a person, and your personality starts in the family. And in our national discourse, we've tended to ignore that fact.
And what about the timing? I mean, in terms of this collaboration, is it pure coincidence that it comes up now, or is this all planned, very rushed in response to, we're having problems internally in the country, external problems that relate to our country?
In the aftermath of the Zondo Commission and many other corruption reports, the review of 30 years, we have been in discussions for some time with the moral regeneration. Even when we said, let's promote an ethical, capable, developmental state, it became very clear that values, norms are at the heart of it. And these would not start at a tertiary institution or in the in-service training. They have to start in a family. Hence, we are bringing the notion of a family squarely back into the national discourse and national imagination, so that even when we have a national dialogue, it becomes one of those things, because the collapse of a family, as we have seen with the African Americans, we have seen with the Native Americans, lead to all these social ills, which often take place within a family. And it also creates an unstable community. Doesn't matter how many police you were to bring, if the family has collapsed, it cannot be replaced by a social grant, it can't be replaced by NSFAS. Those can only complement a functioning, stable family.
Okay, on that basis, you I understand, have put out a family pledge. Tell me more about that.
Yes, a family pledge is invoking all those values of Ubuntu, of respect, of appreciation of human solidarity, and all what a family can do to support any young person, old person, disabled person, normal youth growing up. Because we're told that by developmental psychologists, the first 12 years in any person's life are the ones which shape the person's worldview, personality, character. And it is within the realm of the family that most of that takes place. So the pledge itself is reflecting all the positive values that a family that is functional should be doing, not the one that victimized persons, not the one that is toxic.
Okay, if you can briefly, give us some bullet points about some of the content of that pledge.
That pledge talks to the issue of respect, support, empathy, Ubuntu in essence, as you already referred to that. And it also talks to the protection of those who are vulnerable. And it talks to a range of things, but I can take you through some of the bullet points of that particular pledge without actually being that much long. The one of listening to one another, making time for one another, showing love, care, and concern, the respect, the one of enhancing sound family and community values. And you would have the one of the promotion and the protection of environment as well, where the family is. So all these things that families do to nurture a positive environment, it's precisely the issues that we amplified in the conference.
How then do you move from a pledge, as you talk about it now, to something that is A, popularized, and B, effectively becomes binding to, families and communities and other organizations?
We brought in the Minister of Women, Youth, and People with Disabilities, the Premier. We brought in the religious institutions and other community entities, and we're going to be bringing in basic education. One of the things we hope we will be able to do is to make sure that we include this in the life orientation program of all schools, just like the constitutional values and principles that are contained in our constitution, as well as the positive values that the moral regeneration has developed, because life orientation tend to focus on many other things except the critical issue of character formation, of values to have a normative society.
I mean, would you say in conclusion then that issue of life orientation and focusing on values has dropped off somewhat in terms of importance in the school curriculum, and therefore we as a society are paying the price for that?
Completely. In fact, it has dropped off even in the universities. People who appeared in corruption instances were technically and cognitively well trained, sophisticated, but we had not emphasized on norms, values of the issues of integrity. That's why even people who were auditors were prepared to drop the ball. In fact, if I go further, the current global, financial crisis that we experienced in 2008, it was smart people, well-trained from Ivy League universities, only that they had a character flaw. The stain of the same thing, public sector, the same thing. So we are calling even universities, training institutions, to bring back the issue of a holistic development that will have the values and the issues of Ubuntu as part of that particular holistic development.
All right, well, let's leave it at that. I tell you what, therefore, that question, is Ubuntu still alive in South African society, may be partially answered as per my chat with you, Professor Somadora Fikeni. Thank you for your time. But yes, I think there's this need to welcome this collaboration from the Public Service Commission and the Moral Regeneration Movement, and then to popularize that in terms of the moral practices within the school environment and beyond that. So much appreciate your time here on the National Pulse. Let's get to the news headlines. Here's Greg.
Quick look at the headlines. The ANC's provincial task team says if Gauteng's 14 identified problems can be resolved, this will turn around the province's woes. Two of the many exhibitors at this year's Africa Travel Indaba say the expo is boosting opportunities for both small and large businesses. And US President Donald Trump says nothing will happen regarding the conflict in Ukraine until he meets with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash before Olifantsfontein Road. All lanes are open. The N4 westbound in Pretoria has delays towards the N1 highway, and the N3 southbound in Germiston queuing towards Geldenhuys interchange. In KZN, the N3 westbound in Hammersdale has a stationary truck after Cliffdale exit. The N2 southbound has a crash near Prospection Road, and the M7 is queuing at South Coast Road. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road. Main Road southbound in Observatory is queuing towards the N2 highway, and Palmyra Road southbound in Newlands queuing towards Stanhope Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, Tumi, you've been pretty hectic with what do you want to get off your chest now?
Well, we're going to start off with football on the go, where Amajita are currently playing Nigeria. 34 minutes into the game, it remains goalless. Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns coach has continued to lift the lid on how he went about guiding the Tshwane Giants to a record-extending 8th successive league title. The Brazilians clinched the Betway Premiership title with a game to spare yesterday when they beat Chippa United 3-0 at Buffalo Stadium in East London. Cardoso, who arrived in December 7 games into the season, says he knew immediately what to work on.
Great feelings, great emotions, great feelings, great sensations. I think good emotions that we lived a lot of wonderful emotions, brought to the team the feelings that we needed. I think that happiness the values that we develop in the locker room, the way we pass over the worst moments, really developed among us a good sense of love, of brotherhood. The spirit that made us wonderful to leave this locker room. Has been a wonderful pleasure to leave this last months. I think that when we arrived, obviously it was clear that there was something that needed to change, mostly the energy, nothing to do with the work of the previous coaches that I respect so much, because it was not a matter of results, it was really a matter of the air. We invested a lot in the relations, a lot, because football is not only the way you touch the ball, it's the way you connect yourselves. And us with the players and with the staff and with the club, I think that was the key, the ambience, the spirit. Has been a wonderful experience to be in South Africa. Has been a wonderful experience to be in Mamelodi Sundowns, and a wonderful experience to work with this group of players.
Meanwhile, in news just coming in, tickets to that first leg between Mamelodi Sundowns and Pyramids on the 24th of May is officially sold out. Elsewhere, striker Erling Haaland has described Manchester City's season as horrific and boring, but hopes that it can end with another trophy. For many clubs, reaching the FA Cup final and being on the brink of Champions League qualification would be a successful campaign, but not for Manchester City. Haaland had been in a race to be fit for Saturday's final against Crystal Palace at Wembley on Saturday after missing 7 games with an ankle injury, but started City's goalless draw with Southampton. Then in rugby, the International Rugby Players Association says that players were not consulted about World Rugby's controversial new 7 series format. The format has changed drastically since the global lockdown in 2020, with World Rugby on the 2nd of May revealing a new 3-division competition model from next season that reduces the number of teams in the top tier from 12 to 8. In motorsport, Ferrari team principal Frederic Vasseur says that upcoming mid-season changes for Formula One rules on flexi wings could be a game changer for the competitive picture at the front of the grid. The FIA released a technical directive in January revealing that more stringent flexibility tests on front wings would be introduced for the Spanish Grand Prix, the 9th round of the season, which takes place from the 30th of May to the 1st of June. And finally, in boxing, all-time boxing great Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. believes that there is no way Jake Paul can beat his son when the pair meet in California on the 28th of June. Paul is a division figure in the sport who beat 58-year-old Mike Tyson in a much-hyped contest back in November. Now, Chavez Jr. is a former world champion, but has just competed just once since 2021. And Paul, who found fame by posting prank videos on YouTube and as a child actor on Disney Channel, has amassed a record of 11 wins, mostly against the ex-UFC fighters. His only loss is to Briton Tommy Fury in 2023.
I want to ask you, you got more to say?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Any news on Orlando Pirates?
In terms of the new coach? We're still waiting.
You had your vote yesterday. I thought they'll tell you exactly what you need to do. Nothing.
We're still waiting.
Okay.
We're
Just
still
checking,
waiting.
because that whole nation's waiting. You know, that's why I'm saying that. All right, you better say goodbye.
All right. With that said,
being kind to each other is Ubudu.
It's always time to play on Takalani Sesame.
Chetu, do you want to play Market Day now?
Doing things together as a community can be even more fun than doing them on our own.
Amma loves it so much when we can just be ourselves and learn about our culture together.
Tune in to see what makes you special for the all-new episodes of Takalani Sesame. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on SABC2.
Banyana Bus Style are confident nothing will stop their winning mentality, while Richmond United ladies are highly spirited to display a first-class performance. Gauteng is up against Northern Cape. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the delight of Mzansi's women's football, Mamelodi Sundowns Ladies FC versus Richmond United Ladies on Sunday 18 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC One and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, as always, the SAFM Market Update takes over from 6 to 7, 1 hour of all the biggest news in, the markets and business and indexes and all that. Dudu is once again in the hot seat in space of Jimmy. I think Jimmy's out in Waterville. I'm just guessing, Dudu. You tell me more.
He was yesterday, not today, though, Ashraf. And he will be back with you guys next week. Thank you very much and good evening to you. Let's get a sense of how the markets performed today. Henku Kriel is standing by to help us do exactly that. Henku Kriel, thank you very much for your time. How did we perform today?
Hello, Dudu and Ashraf, and good evening to all of our listeners. US markets displaying mixed emotions, some red, some green, as some of the stock exchanges. The Dow Jones currently 0.3% stronger and the S&P 500 0.2% up. But then the Nasdaq now pulling back a little bit and trading 0.3% down. European stocks, they finished in the green. The FTSE 100 0.4% stronger. The German DAX 0.5% up. But the CAC 40 there in France decided to end the day off unchanged and did not move at all today. However, our stock exchange, the JSE, lost a bit today. It was on the losing side and it finished 0.2% lower and it decreased to a level of 92,338 points. Now let's look at a couple of the sub-indices. The industrial index lost 1.2% today. But from there on, it looked a bit better with the financial index gaining 1% and the resources index finishing 0.5% stronger. Let's have a look at a couple of companies that really gave some strong performances today. There's Karoo, 4% up. Implats and Investec, they each gained 2.5%, followed by Anglo Gold, Gold Fields and DRD Gold. These mining companies finishing the day 2.3% stronger. There was also FirstRand, which gained 2% today. On the losing end of things today, Sasol, unfortunately, again, losing 5%, Bytes 4% down, Anglo, Prosus and Glencore, big companies on our stock exchange, among the 10 largest, also Naspers, they each lost 2.6% today. However, the Rand showing a strong performance today and really a lot stronger against all of the other exchange rates around the world, now trading at 18 Rand and 5 cents to the US dollar, 20 Rand and 20 cents to the euro, 11 Rand 55 is what you'll pay for an Australian dollar, and exactly 24 Rand for a British pound. Gold price on the rise again, now trading at $3,215 an ounce. Silver, $32.50. Platinum, $990. And palladium, $970 per ounce. The price of Brent crude slightly coming down again, which is nice to see, now trading at $64 a barrel. And then I'll finish off with the price of a Bitcoin, which is now trading at $102,200. And that is also 1,880,000 Rand for a Bitcoin. And Dudu, that is how the markets performed today.
Thank you so much, Henku Kriel, MoneyWeb's contributor. And here's what you can look forward to come at 6 o'clock, Ashraf. We're going to be speaking all things results. Afrimet and Equitas both releasing results today, literally night and day. Well, Afrimet didn't do so well. Equitas did quite well. They'll both tell us what they put this performance or their respective performances down to. SAB is celebrating 130 years of commitment to sport. They'll tell us why. Vaughan Cruiser is the Vice President of Marketing at the South African breweries. And then we take a look at NAMPO 2025. We're going to be speaking to Brendan Jacobs. He's head of agribusiness at Business and Commercial Banking. He's with Standard Bank. And we're going to be taking a look at locally made furniture and customizing your needs. Jared Flynn is the founder of Cloud House. He is our feature for the small business feature this evening. All that and more coming up with the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb at 6 p.m. It's back to you, Mr. Gardner.
Perfect. And, you've got 15 minutes to get your show on the road. 6 to 7, and then sport coming up from 7 to 8. This is the National Pulse. It means it's time for me to get a sense of what you're feeling. Fingers on the pulse. Calls, WhatsApps, text messages, tweets as well. We'll take it all in right after this.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
By the way, don't forget, when we have these podcasts, listen to them. And primarily, they're all housed on our website, safm.co.za. Listen, download, share it with your friends. Use it as a basis of conversation, just about everyone. The way you find it, safm.co.za. And then /podcast, then The National Pulse. But also, we tweet them on our Twitter feed, SAFM Radio, and I share it too, and you'll find it also on the SAFM Radio Facebook page. Right, and today's show, lots of interviews I think you may want to listen to regarding some of the biggest issues that are worth reflecting on, even maybe when you're chilling at home at night. Have a listen for the second time. Tsepo in Durban, let's get your thoughts on the USA.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening indeed, right.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I think South Africans need to understand that when it comes to negotiation, it's the same as warfare. And the only way that your opponent will be able to topple you or get what they want is ultimately if they've got leverage or they've got something against you, right? So in the case of South Africa and our President Cyril Ramaphosa, South Africans need to read between the lines and understand, is it individual negotiation where they've got leverage on him, or is it for South Africa? Because any person would put themselves first. Where I'm going to, for example, without being controversial, if you look at the ICJ case, for example, and you've been following what's been going on in South Africa with the U.S. negotiation, there's an attempt or an effort to sanction individuals, not South Africa as a whole. So what do they have on those individuals? We all know of the MTN bribery scandal in Iran.
Yeah.
And you only have to read between the lines and, the saying that goes, something coming back to bite you from the past.
But when you say the attempt is being made by whom?
Well, it's a collective, if I can say. If, for example, Donald Trump knows that he can get the South African president to agree to his terms, he'll do anything in his power to do that.
Okay.
Right.
And using that leverage to do that, yeah.
Yes. He'll use the leverage, and he'll look at points that he can say, look, you've done this. You are at risk of being blacklisted from SWIFT globally, which will mean you'll lose all your shares, you'll lose all your wealth for your family. You're also at risk of being prosecuted in your own country.
Okay, Tsepo, I like what you're saying. I won't say I like what you're saying. I like what I hear because of what you're saying, that these are the realities. I mean, Trump has quoted extensively about the art of the deal, and that's really what he does often enough, right? But let's just move on. So in light of all the things you've said, now we have a situation where the president of our country is going to visit the USA next week and will visit Donald Trump, and he'll be at the White House, right? How would you approach it? I mean, from a South African perspective, keeping in mind what some may think that, again, Ramaphosa doesn't go on his own accord. I mean, he represents an entire country. There's a communications, international relations, strategic team that decides how he must approach it, isn't it?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, what's important is to understand that it's about individuals, right? It's Trump to President Cyril Ramaphosa. So most importantly is going to be the courtesy and what both men can complement each other on. They're both businessmen. They've both done well. Cyril Ramaphosa needs to understand, and I say this wholeheartedly. He needs to understand that most likely what's going to happen is that the negotiations, as everybody's been saying, calling in, will not go the way that South Africans are hoping. What will happen is that Trump will ask President Cyril Ramaphosa to possibly step down from his position and get somebody else to negotiate on the behalf of South Africa. Our president is just too compromised.
That's so interesting. Okay. Leave it at that. Tsepo, we'll have that chat next week and see what finally happens. Right. Younger in Rosebank, you're on the air. Go for it.
Afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, good afternoon. Right. What's your point?
Yes, Ashraf. Yeah, no, thank you first, for your balanced journalism. Now we know that, the member of the EFF was told that the matter is not on the agenda, and the minister is coming not next year, not next month, but on Wednesday. So I think really it is just a political grandstanding, of which I think it is wrong, because the son of the minister is also a South African, and he's a professional, and it is unfair, for him to be judged, based on because he's a son of a minister. If they have a problem with his qualification, they should have raised that straightforward, not to even mention that he's the son of a minister.
Well, I mean, that is
So I
why.
think-
Let's see what happens next week, because I know after we did the two different interviews, and it's not just me; it's a whole team. You know, we got Temba and Keys, and then Vusani that does the social media aspects. So we all work as a team together, and we decided we need to get the two right, and that's what we've done, right? But that is why once they've said it'll be tabled on Wednesday, you don't expect now the ANC person to give you the answers today. I mean, nobody does a haircut on the telephone. You know, the time will come on Wednesday. Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Yes,
Point
yeah.
taken.
By the way, he was not appointed by his father, so yeah, I think it is political grandstanding.
Okay, let's see what happens on Wednesday. Yanga, thanks for that call. Right, we stay in, in fact, we go to Josini, right, in Kululeko, who wants to comment about an issue we didn't speak about for a whole day today, unemployment. Go for it.
Hey, unemployment. I'm an unemployed graduate, a teacher, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very much qualified as a maths teacher and sciences. But I'm very much shocked because the government is saying there's no job. But you can see the advertisement on the database, especially in Gauteng. There's too much teaching posts, and we are applying through that government database. But then you don't seem to get a response. Even all the provinces, when you do a door-to-door, like going school to school to look for a job, they will tell you about a national database and a provincial database. And then when you put your name there, they can't pick you up. So I'm so puzzled. And by the way, Ashraf, I want to know, because we've got the Home Affairs under the DA, Public Works under the DA, but now the education, I think there's a very silent there. Dr. Wahube is very silent. I think she must come up and tell us when is she going to employ teachers in South Africa.
I think she has. I interviewed her 2 weeks ago. They don't have the budget. When they have the budget, they can do so. I'm going to have to move on because time is against us. In Kululeko, normally when they apply for jobs, it's a case of so many people applying, and therefore it gets taken up. That's the reality when you have a scarcity of jobs in the market. We must change that.
Save and win a car with Spar for real. Stand to win one of 50 fiery red Hyundai Grand i10 sedans. Buy any participating products and swipe your rewards card to enter. Get 450 gram Bacoma Wheat Bix, original only, for $24.99, plus 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 200 gram Baker's Murray biscuits. Buy any two for 30 Rand, plus 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Prices valid until 19 May, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
You know, ever since I adopted positive energy-saving behaviors, the National Grid is thanking me. You should also adopt this lifestyle and your pocket will thank you too. Simply switch off non-essential appliances and lights when they're not in use. Reduce your geyser temperature to 60 degrees Celsius. Replace inefficient lights with LED lights. These are some of the ways you can use electricity wisely to help sustain our energy grid and contribute to a greener planet. Just like every rand counts, every kilowatt counts. Let's use electricity wisely. Eskom.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
And there are more. I'll get to some of your WhatsApps just now, but interesting how many people are already very interested in the Ramaphosa White House Trump meeting next week, right? Lee, you have a view as well. Lee in Cape Town, hello.
Hi, Ashraf. Sorry, but the line's not very good.
Not a problem.
Just
Go
on
for
the
it.
visit.
Yeah.
A few things. So the one caller made the point about it's a meeting of personalities, and why I'm very skeptical about the meeting is because I think there are a couple of key ingredients. One is going to be contrition. Two is going to be a level of moderation and coming off the exaggeration that we are seeing doing the rounds on social media, in mainstream media, in the way in which the narrative has been pushed from all sides. And I think the third is a level of pragmatism. Why I'm skeptical is because, quite frankly, I don't believe either of the two leaders have that in their DNA. Their actions over many, many years, I think, have borne that out. But then I just want to make a second point and relate it to
very quickly.
The caller.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's that?
I said very quickly, 1 point. Go for it.
Okay. Second point is that all of this, for me, when South Africa's president comes there to represent the interests of SA Inc., that caller 2 calls before the teacher who is unemployed, I think is exactly what the conversation should be about. Get off the narratives, get off the race baiting. For Trump, get off the Christo fascism that he's trying to punt under the guise of refugees and people being persecuted. And for our president, it should be about coming back to real-world problems with real-world solutions. We have a country that is slowly burning and eating itself alive. And what are we doing? We are at each other's throats and at the throats of personalities and egos. We have real problems to solve. Now is the time for leadership.
When I agree about the real problems, the question is, how much of leverage, again, does South Africa actually have when they meet with Trump at the White House? Lee, thanks for putting that on the agenda. I have a sense we'll talk more about it even tomorrow too. Kagiso in Kimberley, go for it.
Hey, Ashraf.
Yeah, how's it? What's your point?
My opinion is that, you see, Trump is talking about the art of the deal, but then at the bigger scope of things, there is the art of the war, you see. So at the moment, Trump is having a short-term outlook on things, but Cyril Ramaphosa didn't get to where he got to by giving up. He was our chief negotiator into the new dispensation. Mm-hmm. He must have some kind of skill that can take us forward. So all I'm saying is that at the art of the war, underestimate your opponent at your own peril.
Well, I mean, I agree. You can't underestimate anybody. I mean, I got that. We're going to leave it at that because of time. But I mean, again, Ramaphosa did that deal 30 years ago. Some may say, how convincing was he to get voters to vote for his party on the May 29th? I mean, just think about that, right? Okay, some quick WhatsApps. Please keep it to about 30 seconds, the voice notes. It really helps.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. About the President Ramaphosa visiting Mr. Donald Trump, the President of America, I believe it's going to be a fruitful visit, because I know Mr. Ramaphosa is a good negotiator. I know Mr. Ramaphosa is a cool person who doesn't just talk without thinking. He talks usually when he has considered everything. So I believe something good is going to come out when he go there to America. It's Jacob from Jamestown. Thanks.
I mean, do you see this like a meeting of a Nelson Mandela and a Dalai Lama, or do you see it of a meeting of two fighters in a Rocky, one of those Rocky movies? I mean, seriously, how do you see the optics and the attrition or the lack thereof that may or may not happen?
This is solid. Look, we know that presidential visits are always very, very controlled. Trump coming to South Africa for 2, 3, 4 days doesn't mean that he's going to go all over the country and see for himself that there is no genocide in South Africa. What government must do is work harder at getting those people who influence Trump's thinking, the era of their thinking and of their influence of Trump. They need to get them to be the ones who convey the right message about South Africa to Trump. Of course, Trump could be great to come to South Africa, but don't expect that him coming here is going to be sufficient for him to change his mind about South Africa.
Point taken, Solly. I think you're right in response to Naledi Pando's suggestion, right? Because you're right. It's staged. How many places can you go and see, in that period? But what's interesting is a point I raised yesterday at an event to say, what's the one thing we could learn from AfriForum, which is the ability to have influenced a national agenda far away from home? What can South Africa or Brand SA now learn from that? I mean, seriously, that if they can do that, why can't we as a country do that? Because that's what we need to be doing very quickly, especially if we believe that all those stories have been peddled about South Africa inherently wrong. So then it should be quite simple, isn't it?
It's so naive of Naledi Pandor to say Donald Trump doesn't know what is happening in South Africa. He is very much aware of what's happening in South Africa. He knows that there are no land grabs. He knows that there is no genocide in South Africa. But he just wants to punish South Africa because of this, what is happening in Israel and everything, our stance on Israel and stuff. But he knows very well what is happening in South Africa.
So, okay, that could be another point, that he knows, but he doesn't care because they have an agenda that even you and I don't understand, right?
Hi, Ashraf. Ashraf, man, I honestly don't think it is fair to say that you can't compare what happened 30 years ago with respect to President Cyril Ramaphosa's negotiation skills. I mean, that's not something he went to university for. It's a skill. It's an inherent skill. Not any Tom, Dick and Harry can go into any room and negotiate. It's a skill. It's an inherent skill. It's something you don't lose. It's like driving. You learned to drive 30 years ago, and 30 years later you can still drive. I mean, it's a skill. You don't lose it. I don't think it is fair to say that. Thank you, Rudolph from Witbank, Mpumalanga.
Thanks, Rudolph. I don't think it's a case of fair or unfair. It's an opinion. I'm saying to you, I'm not saying he doesn't have the skills. Clearly, he does it. What I'm asking you is this: you're up against another person who also is skilled at what he does. So you're in competition with each other. And how do you actually get the best deal? The one difference between now and 1994, for example, is Ramaphosa had leverage, and what he had, the leverage was he had the model high ground of the African National Congress, of a party that was outside of Parliament at that time that got in, that actually was fighting to end apartheid. It's a very different scenario this time around. That doesn't mean I don't wish him well, because believe me, when he wins, it will be a win for South Africa too, so I certainly get that. Right, that's the show. Much appreciate you connecting. I think we're going to talk lots more about Trump and Ramaphosa tomorrow. We just probably have to, in terms of what should be the plan. So I'll leave it at that. This is the National Pulse. Listen, you can catch the podcast on our website. Catch it on Twitter. We've tweeted them all out. Fusani has done that, and the same on Facebook too. And feel free to connect using that hashtag, the National Pulse, even now. Thank you for listening. We'll do it again tomorrow. Here's Greg Host. It's 6 o'clock.
Thank you again, Ashraf. ANC confident of Gauteng turnaround, and Trump weighs in on Ukraine-Russia talks. Good evening. The ANC's provincial task team says if Gauteng's 14 identified problems can be resolved, this will turn around the province's